Hello, my fellow humans, and welcome to the reading room once again, where we're going to be doing the after show for my debate. And I'm sorry, this was a bit late. I was stuffing my face with cereal because I missed breakfast. I didn't realize that the daylight saving time changed for the eastern states, the eastern seaboard of US. So I thought I was getting up an hour later, right up until last night, and then I went whoops. And so I kind of missed breakfast, so I do apologize. But we're here now. And Max, thank you for joining me. Really good to have you on as my co-host and wingman, I guess. We've had a good relationship on matters now, and yeah, I always love talking to you. So how are you doing?
Really good. It's been a good weekend, and we've reached the 10,000 subscriber milestones that matters now. So pretty happy about that. It happened live on a stream, which was pretty exciting. So yeah, and this was a quite fun debate. Hussein for all his flaws,
very fast.
He's a good debater, and it's enjoyable having a chat with him.
Yeah, and, I mean, I like Hussein, even though we butt heads. I still like him. I really do. I just do. I do.
Yeah, and thank you for inviting me to host here with you. I love doing the after shows, hearing what people think, and it's a good instance to have a more casual chat and not that confrontation of the fire of the debate. It's really interesting.
Oh yeah, I love debate, but I do love just having the casual conversations as well. But yeah, no, it was just the right level of passionate argument and respect for one another. I think it was fantastic. I really felt like I could get across what I had to get across. I felt like I hope that Hussein felt like he could get across what he needed to get across. I really did enjoy it. But I'll post the link to Stringer.
People are getting excited.
Yeah, well, be excited. We're definitely going to be going through. I've got a thing come up already. Thank you, Maximiliano. Oh, is that Maximiliano? What a name. That's awesome. I love it.
That's my name too, yeah.
Oh, really? That's awesome. Is that you or is that another Maximiliano?
No, it's a fake one, but we love him.
Oh, okay. It's a fake Max. I'm not sure I believe you, sir. Okay, I'm gonna pin that. Sorry, Max. I'll get to you in 1 second, mate. And beautiful. And Maximiliano Villa gifted 5 readerships. I'm sorry.
Visha.
Okay, I'm terribly sorry for mispronouncing that completely. Just hang out in the back, and I will get to you guys. I just have to. I just want to find out who this hit kind of thing. Who it hit. It hit. It hit J&M Cannon, Tyler Hannon, Art Jer, and you hit Maya Atkinson and Zeisifer. Congratulations, winner, chicken dinner. There you go. Enjoy your emotes and your thingo. And there's a $20 super chat. Thank you so much, Brandon, from Brandon Smith. I'll get that on screen as well. Brandon, thank you. I really appreciate it. Doing the Lord's work. Look, if the Lord is secular humanism, you're 100% right. But yeah, I thank you. I really appreciate it. And I love to have these conversations. Okay. And we'll get some people on the stage. But thank you, everybody. Yeah, I've been playing around with things. So here's some applause for Brandon.
Woohoo!
Thank you so much, Brandon. Really appreciate it, mate. Issa, Leophilius, Tyler. I've definitely met all 3 of you people before, so good to see you. How are you, Tyler? How are you doing? How have you been?
I'm all kinds of all right. That was a good debate. I was fascinated with some of the things that came out of Hussein's mouth. I was even more fascinated that you didn't jump on it when you did. But I guess
okay. I'll take feedback. I take any feedback. So yeah.
Well, at one point he said something to the effect of most people kill criminals. So if anything, Islam is far more merciful. And I thought that was a fascinating statement.
Well, yeah, throughout history, if you look at it historically. Sorry.
Yeah. I just want to introduce everybody. Leo, how are you doing, mate? You good?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay.
About as fine as I'm gonna be.
I might put and Hussein, thank you so much for joining us, and Isa, so good to see you. How are you?
2v4. Let's go.
2v4. I don't want you to look at it like that. Let's just look at it.
Yeah, the after show is about chilling. And,
yeah, it's chill. I'm not even here to debate. I just had some questions for Mark because I'm genuinely curious, but other than that, I'm
Okay.
just here
Bi curious or just curious?
just curious about your thoughts on it. So, because I was talking to Issa about it.
All right.
So,
shoot, yeah, go.
But sorry, does Tyler want to go off that first? Because Tyler, I just meant like historically, right? So like the punishment in a group, in like any group historically, right? Like if you use the historical method of like communism, capitalism, or what is it? Excuse me, the historical dialectics / like Nietzsche's idea is when you analyze
historical materialism, dialectical materialism, and historical materialism.
Sure. But yeah, when you just like look at history and how people acted, basically like if someone betrayed the group, they were either killed or cast off. So, and like cast off is like the mercy, but basically the implication is that they're just like left to die. So just chopping off their hand for theft is in way like a mercy. And that's what I was trying to get at, where Islam provides restrictions on human beings' worst impulses. So for example, like in war, there's just war theory was in a way invented by Islam, where like under say like a Jean-Paul Sartre style ideology, like you're a soldier in war, you can do whatever the fuck you want. I mean, like nothing matters. So
okay, well, if that's what you're saying, all I can say in response is that wasn't very clear at the time.
Okay, yeah, thank you. My bad, I tried.
Well, I don't think I'd hold up Jean-Paul Sartre as one of the, a person that's particularly heavy in secular humanism, to be honest with you.
He just says like
an existentialist.
Yeah, he says
you must know that the International Covenant on what is the International Covenant on Social and Human Rights is a secular humanist declaration.
Yeah, I understand it's like way after him. And I'm just saying that, okay, so what is it? The no true Scotsman fallacy. It's like these people are just claiming, like Sam Harris said, we're at war with Islam and that we can nuke Muslim places. He's claiming
No, he didn't say that. He did not say that. You are, that is absolutely a misquote. He said, what do you do if a Muslim nation that wants to destroy America has obtained a nuclear weapon and intends to use it? So that is absolutely false that he said that.
Nothing.
Okay.
You do nothing.
Basically was saying,
there is no Muslim country. There is no other country on the world that possesses nukes that could stand at the United States. Just our aircraft carriers alone could mobilize more military power than whole ass nations. Just our aircraft carriers. I just want to say, if
any of you want to stream to your own audiences, please go for it. I do not mind in the slightest. Absolutely. No problem at all. Sorry.
Anyways. I'm just saying he calls himself a secular humanist, right? But
yeah.
So have different conclusions. That was it. That was the whole point.
It was a hypothetical, Leo. It was basically saying if a Muslim nation has a nuclear weapon and you believe intends to use it, the best thing may be to preemptively strike that nation.
Yeah, no, I know. It was
saying, hey, we should nuke all Muslim. No, that's not what he said.
Oh, fuck no.
It was a no. I don't know about that. I think that would have to be, the list of circumstances for that to happen would have to be so specific and so like, how would you know that they intended to use it and things like that? Because, I don't know if you know this, but America has lied before about nations having weapons of mass destruction. I'm not sure if you know this, but definitely has told a couple of lies about that in the past. So,
Yeah.
but now what is happening is people are saying, well, Sam Harris said to nuke all Muslim. No, not in any way. Like, I think that really has to be known. He
Okay.
did not say that.
Mark, so something I wanted to ask you, and maybe Tyler and the other humanists can answer as
Go for
well.
it. Yeah.
Okay, so the contrast in the debate is that Islam has both micro and macro level ways to behave and prescriptions, but it seems as if secular humanism doesn't really have like, and this is why I'm trying to, like, obviously you don't agree with Jean-Paul Sartre, but I'm saying, like, in a way it boils down to that kind of, because you ask a secular humanist, well, okay, well, what should one do in this situation? And, you know, they all come to different conclusions, and they all have, does that make sense? Like, there's no consensus, where in Islam there is, right? Like, terrorism is wrong, period, in Islam. But, you know, you could
a lot of
have
Islamic people would not agree with you on that one.
Yeah, the consensus among all scholars is that it's wrong. So, I mean, just because
who's using the no true Scotsman now, Hussein? There's a lot of Islamic people like the Islamic State.
Yeah, but
and
they're
a
paid
lot
by
of
Israel. They're those countries are paid by, like, ISIL and stuff. Like, they literally kill other Muslims, and they're paid by Israel. Like, you can look into, like,
by Israel.
Yeah,
so the terrorist. Hang on. So you're claiming that the terrorist attacks on countries in the Middle East by ISIS is a paid false flag operation by the Jews?
No, I mean, I'm not saying by the Jewish people. I'm saying by Israel specifically. but
Israel does not equal the Jews, just like Palestinians does not equal Hamas.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, I misspoke. I'm sorry. But
well, I get where you were going for sure.
But I understand what you meant. Yes. But I just want to clarify before someone takes
any evidence that you know that ISIS is a paid false flag operation by Israel?
So,
do you have any evidence of this whatsoever, or is that just something that you're going to toss out there? Because it seems very weird. I mean, I'm not sure where you got this information. It sounds very weird to me.
Yeah, so the Syrian Iranian government, as well as Hezbollah, have confirmed that they've been attacked by ISIS, and most of ISIS's victims are basically other Islamic countries, like just people, right? So they're like going around and beheading other people. So the implication of this is that it serves U.S. and Israel's essentially stated goals. So.
Or maybe they're just conquerors and kind of don't care who they're killing.
I think that a lot of fundamentalist religious states attack less fundamentalist states. We've seen that in the past. You know, so you know, it's kind of like saying, well, the Catholic Church must have been a false flag operation because they attacked the Cathars, who were also Christian, and there's a number of, you know, Christian sects that they attacked. That's not
Christians
fighting
Christians? That's unheard of. What?
Oh yeah.
I wanted to share one thing too. I think I understand what Hussein is saying, and I think we need to understand that there's a spectrum within the Islamic Muslim community, and there's some Muslims who might take a very hyper literalistic interpretation that is not really honoring, you know, Muslims as a whole. And I agree with Hussein that they do attack Muslims. I don't know exactly the origin, but I think there's a lot of destabilization that happens in certain nations, power vacuums that exist, like in Iraq and Afghanistan. And you have a lot of, what do we say, mercenaries. Like after, you know, Saddam Hussein was taken out, there were a lot of these mercenaries, and there was this power vacuum. So that allowed for these kind of, I would say, extremist folks to kind of take over. And I think we just have to understand there's a diversity of ideology, and some of this ideology is very unhealthy. And we have to understand there's a spectrum. It's like the problem is we can't say Islam is just, the Islamic community is perfectly pure. We have elements of difficulty, but we also have very wonderful people too. And I think that needs to be,
absolutely, Yeah, sorry, Isa. The only reason I bring it up is because Hussein said there was diversity of thought among secular humanists, and my point is there's diversity of thought, like, and for him to say, well, there's no diversity of thought, everybody agrees in Islam. I think that's really, I don't think that's accurate at all. I think there's more agreement of thought among secular humanists than there is among Islamic thought. I would strongly think that.
Okay, so if there's a billion Muslims and they all believe terrorism was okay, would there'd be like a billion terrorists? But we obviously don't see that. So the general consensus
I never
is that
said you do.
I understand, but I'm just saying, like, the consensus is that terrorism is wrong. And then all the scholars, like in Sunni and Shia Islam, have like adamantly disavowed terrorism. And the reason I said that is like there's people have written it. So like, for example, like there's a UN report, Israel is in regular contact with Syrian rebels, including ISIS. And then there's also evidence of essentially like Gulf countries, which are basically just states sponsored by the US, if you look into it, who are then sponsoring like these people.
Well, I would need evidence of that, really. That sounds like something a bit sort of conspiracy theory-ish to me, to be honest with you. But what I'll point out just briefly is that you probably can't find me a secular humanist that believes terrorism is necessary.
Yeah. So this is one of them, but like there's other reports of it, and it's like a common thing. And then there's also reports about how like strains of specific Islam that are more extreme are like funded by the Saudi government, which is basically like some would believe a whipping boy of the West. So
I have a question to ask. I think it's kind of strange and interesting because I think there's like a little bit of a problem when we try to compare all the Muslim communities of like billions of Muslims and then try to compare it to secular humanists, which is a certain narrative within atheistic thought. Because like it's hard. If we're looking at all of atheistic thought, then you would take in folks like Stalin and these other people. I think you have to compare a certain aspect of Islam to a certain aspect, with secular humanism, because I think you get a misnomer conversation if you say, I'm going to take all of Islam, which is it is diverse. It's a very diverse space. But I agree with Hussein. I think overall all the scholars would agree that this is a minority opinion of these terrorist attacks. It's a minority opinion, but it is a part of the conversation. We can't say it's not Islam at all. It is a part of the Muslim community, but I think it's so hard to compare hundreds of years, 1,000 years plus of information, and then try to compare that to like this kind of modern movement of secular humanism. I don't know how you can really have a fair conversation between these two.
Well, that's my point. I'm trying to ask, like, so like Tyler and Mark, can you give me like what are moral imperatives? Because like in the first debate I had with you, Mark, I kind of tried to explain well, what's the point of secular humanism if it's basically like an inept theory that doesn't even tell you how to behave or what someone ought to do, right? Other than this vague notion of like freedom and flourishing and like, you know what I mean?
Well, it does. And the way we can is by examining under science what the actual outcomes are. So the scientific method is incredibly important because it tells you what actions are beneficial and what actions are not beneficial. So we can kind of make this analysis of outcomes and give empirical results to what the result of our actions will and will not be. Now, you can go into a lot of other stuff like social contract theory and things like that, like you give up part of your freedoms, like you submit to the authorities part of your freedoms in order for protection under that society. And we can talk about social contract if you want. I'm sure Leo's got a lot to say about social contract theory, but so when you're looking at secular humanism, it doesn't tell you exactly how to behave, but it does give you guidance on what to do, because it basically says pay attention to the knowledge that we have garnered as a species, and it fosters basically that borders are essentially imaginary. They don't exist. Okay, they're just not a thing.
We just accept that they are.
Right, but that's sort of pragmatic at the moment. Like the whole goal is to be one species, like just humans and nothing else. That's the goal. And we can split ourselves into different smaller factions, and that's okay. Like that's all right. We're not going to force anybody not to do that. But it is a way of thinking that sets the goal on the best flourishing for humanity. And so that will tell you how to behave. Because and there's nothing to say that you have to want the flourishing of humanity, but you'll admit that it's pretty ubiquitous that people do want the best for themselves and the people around them, best for society.
So an example I wanted to bring up that it slipped my mind. So when you're talking about flourishing, right? There's people who are like communists or socialists, right? And they're very heavily focused into materialism, right? And people's material conditions, which obviously plays like a factor in people's happiness, right? But then there's like, so there's for example though, been some recent studies which that actually like directly contradict that. They're basically saying that actually like materialism is making people unhappy. So like, isn't that so? If you care about human flourishing in like a material world,
I don't think so. I don't think so. Well, I think it's capitalism that's making people unhappy. I think you're sort of conflating materialism and capitalism there, where
he's using materialism in the Marxist sense.
No, yeah, I'm using it in the Marxist sense.
Like,
so I'm saying Marxists would say you're unhappy because your material conditions are shit. But then there's studies that say that actually like materialism and only focusing on your material conditions actually only leads to unhappiness. So the religious argument would be like, well, you know, you can be poor and unhappy because you have God, right? And you're praying and you're like spiritually fulfilled, right? But if you only care about material conditions and then you look over and someone's, you know, richer than you, then you're going to be envious and you're going to be upset. So focusing is problematic, right? So what would be like the atheistic answer to that? If does that make sense? Like if you're saying spirituality doesn't matter, God doesn't exist, what's the secular humanist answer to that?
Things that we have that are not material but are quite fulfilling, like generally relationships, for instance, like your relationship, your community, your social structures, your community-based things, that they're not material things, not in the traditional sense or the Marxist sense of materialism, but they are important and they do provide a lot of fulfilling things. So I don't know why. I'm not sure what you're trying to get at.
I do have to.
Go there.
Technically, marriage, and not even just those kinds of relationships, but relationships you share to other people, would classify under a person's material conditions, because it has a bearing on how they live their life and the conditions under which they live their life and how those conditions inform how they live their life. So I don't know if you know this, Hussein, but I am a Marxist. So
yeah. No. So the funniest thing is you have literal like incels who are like, well, actually for my material conditions, I should have a spouse and it's my human right to have a spouse.
Well,
I love incels, man.
I'm not sure we should be holding up incels as a paradigm of ethics here. I'm not sure that they would come under secular humanism, but all I'm saying is that there are things that you can believe in and have find joy and experience in, and they're not like, I don't see why you would need a God. It sounds like you're sort of saying, hey, in order to have a happy life, you've got to have a God, and I would like you to prove that.
No. Question.
Okay, what's your question, Max?
For Hussein, do you really think that someone can be happy if they're like really, really poor and they believe in God? Do you think that brings like actual happiness?
Yeah, 100%. And there's people who like they've studied it, and what is it? There's like and there's stories obviously of it too. And you can talk to like people who are individuals who are like very devoutly religious, and they basically have nothing. I mean, hell, you can even still see it in Palestine. I mean, obviously, like there'll be atheists who are just saying, well, yeah, it's just coping mechanism, blah, blah, blah. Like you're only evolved to have that. You know what I mean? So, but I mean, I wouldn't say that.
No, I don't know what you mean.
Yeah.
Are we saying? Are we saying?
I think if your stomach is if your stomach is hurting because you haven't eaten in days, I don't think believing in God will do anything to make you happy at that point.
Well, you'd think if there was a God, these people wouldn't be going hungry in the first place. But what do I know?
And the question is, why are these Muslim countries so low on the happiness index?
So wait. Quick question. So you guys don't think there's anyone who like did something or was in a crappy state, but they could still be happy?
Oh, I do. I think poor people can be happy.
I think
because happiness is a fleeting emotion. The broader term that you would want to be talking about isn't happiness, but content.
I wanted to address one of the.
It depends. Like happiness, like sort of maximizing happiness, it kind of is more just life satisfaction than anything else. Like it's kind of.
See, that's what I would define as content.
I wonder.
But it's the greatest
overall life satisfaction.
It's just something how it's defined. Anyway, go ahead, Isa. I'm really
sorry. I wanted to address the point about the happiness content. We have to understand these aren't really Muslim countries. These are Muslim majority countries. This is not the ideal of the Islamic world. So that has to be understood. A lot of these countries have serious problems. They have a lot of human rights violations. There's a lot of you could say colonization, imperialism. That's a part of the variables that exist in these spaces. So I think we have to grant these points too. And a lot of these places are dictatorships too. And that's not if we were going to look at what Hussein is saying, the ideal Islamic state wouldn't be a dictatorship. So that's the problem. This is not the ideal state. This is.
Can I add to that?
Sure, please.
I think that in a lot of these Muslim majority countries, I agree with everything you just said, and I think that a lot of the woes don't come from them being a majority Muslim country. They come from the countries being autocracies of whatever sort. They come from the countries being autocracies. That's where all these heinous legal actions and the starvation and the setting gay people on fire and hurling them off buildings, that's all because of the autocracy under which these countries are operated. They're just, and this is what happens a lot of times in autocracies, is there's a lot of people internally who suffer because the point of an autocracy isn't to provide meaningfully for the people of your nation. It's to protect power and wealth.
Yep.
Well, the problem is that, I think that Hussein would agree with sort of not giving rights to gay people and things like that.
Wait. What do you mean not giving rights?
Should gay people have the right to marriage? Should they have the right to?
Why did gay people want to get married?
Why do straight people?
Why does anyone want to get married?
No. Because historically, when you look at marriage, marriage is like a religious thing, right? Do you mean like
nowadays? I would argue marriage is the right to be next to your loved one's deathbed in the hospital, because if you're not married, they won't even let you in.
Yeah, that's a stupid protocol from like a hospital. Like that's like,
I agree.
That's like
it's a valid reason to want to get married.
Of a stupid bureaucracy where they're like, oh, like I'm sorry your friend's dying, but you can't actually see them. Like that's like.
So marriage
horrible.
Sort of, if you go really, really far back, it's more it's a union of families and kin rather than a religious thing. Like historically, captains have been able to marry people on the ships, and they might be the most irreligious captain ever. It has always been the authority of the state and the head of state, whoever that may be, the kings, the leaders, to be able to grant union to families, not the religious.
So, but they're intermingling families for the purpose of procreating, which homosexual people
not always. No. Like throughout, like the 600s, 700s, the 800s, the 900s, like all throughout the like the antiquities and into the Middle Ages, and even like into the late feudal stages, like the 16 and 17, and even into the 1800s. Marriage, for the most part, particularly amongst the aristocrats and royal families, was all about power moves. You're going to marry the woman from this family because we're allies then, and we're more powerful. And since we have similar interests as families, it would be good to join in these unions because then we can exercise that extra power to get what we want. If you've ever seen the show Game of Thrones, they almost perfectly depict how marriage was for a very large period in human history. It was all about power and interests.
Okay, I'm not necessarily disagreeing.
Just
that
one
is a part
second,
of it,
Hussein.
but they
Just-
have to
just-
procreate, you guys. Like they have to
One
procreate and further
second.
their
Yeah,
family.
no, I don't accept that.
What are you
Just one
talking
second.
about? The whole point is they're procreating. What do you
Just one
mean?
second to say, I got to call out a super chat, Maximiliano.
Okay.
Sorry, help me out with the surname.
Visha.
Visha. That's Miliano Visha. Thank you so much. $5. What is that? SGD? Anyone know what that is?
That's the currency from Singapore.
Singaporean. Okay, fantastic. On my time zone. Awesome. I agree imperialism has done horrible things to many of our countries. Now, what would an ideal Islamic state be like? In my mind, it would be pretty horrendous. I think there'd be multiple human rights violations and things. But thank you so much for your contribution.
Have you ever been to? I really want to pay. Like, let's sponsor Mark to go to like Saudi Arabia, one of his like worst idea governments, and then see what he thinks of it after actually going, because it's not the doom and gloom that he's selling. I don't think.
Well, that kind of depends on who you are.
Can I be gay there?
No. Privately, sure.
Oh God.
Okay.
Maximilian.
What do you mean? What do you mean? Oh God! Like it's privately. You can go do that.
So in the closet, you're still forced to remain in the closet. You can't publicly be gay. You can't be who you want to be.
It's like a very common.
Isn't suggesting for someone to stay gay privately the same as like, yeah, you can rob this bank, just don't get caught?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. Sorry, I had a few more super chats. Thank you so much, Robin, for $5. Spent most of my money on debate. Lol, great job. That's all right, Robin. You do so much for the community. It's absolutely fantastic. And yes, I have bed bugs. That's terrible. I'm sorry to hear that. But $20, thank you so much. The money that would have gone to MDD, I'll take it. Thank you so much. I'll steal from James. That's fine. He doesn't mind.
I already got the email off for James to refund his super chat from the debate. So,
do you mind if I address what Maximiliano Villa? He said Villa.
Visha.
No, he said Villa in the chat too. In the chat, he said Villa is fine too. Visha or Villa. He said
okay.
To address what he was saying, what would an Islamic state look like? Well, I think this is complex because it's nuanced. There were many different kinds of dynasties. You had the Umayyads, you had the Abbasids, you had the Fatimids, you had the Ottomans. They all had different kinds of rule. And to just say, well, they would all be horrible and terrible human rights violations, I don't know if I think that's fair. I think we're kind of sweeping everything under the rug. I think things change over time, and I think there's different kinds of ideals, and I think it's hard to say. Like, for example, some things like the hudud, which was what Hussein was talking about. The hudud is like the punishment, right? The way that the Ottoman Empire handled it was they would use the caveat of majnun, or craziness, as being a way to, as a kind of a loophole outside of the punishment. So there's different strategies of how we can look at this. I think it's just really hard to just say, well, the Islamic society is this really, like, it's an episode of 24. This is what I feel like when most people look at Islam. It's like, look at these like Arab terrorists that are coming in and it's 24 and they want to blow themselves up. And I'm like, I don't think that's a really fair way to look at Muslims and the Muslim community through this gaze. I think we need to have a more nuanced approach.
It's years of propaganda. Like Blogging Theology did a video about the Ottoman Empire, and he literally showed that there was like maybe a handful of instances of the capital punishment being done. So yes, it's on the books, but it's not always enacted. And like Issa's saying, there was plenty of reasons to not enact these hudud punishments. The same thing with the chopping the hand or anything like that. And the point is like, for example, America
in fairness,
criminalized.
You did endorse chopping hands off, Hussein.
As a rule. I said as a rule, yeah, that's fine.
I mean,
not like enacted.
It kind of undermines the statement of, hey, we don't have to enforce these and then we can go about it in a different way. When someone in the chat is saying, no, chopping people's hands off that have been caught stealing is fine.
Yeah.
In the Ottoman Empire in particular, a few. I have a hard time believing what you just said because I was researching
Same.
crazy rulers in history, and I found out that
Did you Google that? Crazy rulers in history?
That sounds like a
no, I
show.
have
That
I
sounds
have
like
a
a
link.
show.
Yes,
Sorry.
that's part of my Tell Me That Story show on Matters Now, if
Um,
anyone is interested. But I found out that it was commonplace among the Ottomans that when someone was the ruler, they would lock up their brothers in like a tower
That
just
is
so they
true.
wouldn't conspire
That's true.
against them. So I have a really hard time believing
That's
that
crazy.
if that's what the rulers did to their own brothers,
But that's in the
they
family.
wouldn't.
Royal
That's
families do this all the time, though.
Yeah, royal
Yeah,
families
yeah, I
do it all
know.
the time.
This is not
the-
their people. Those are different things. The
yeah, and
argument
Islam
about-
doesn't even condone that. Like Islamically, they're just sinning. They're being horrible people.
But
Yeah.
this is feudal empire type stuff. All the rulers did this stuff. The
Yeah.
European rulers
Right,
were not
but-
any different than the
You
Ottoman
could have an
rulers.
atheist.
But the
person do
second
this.
part of what I was saying was that I have a hard time believing that if a ruler would lock up their own brother for fear of a conspiracy against them, I have a hard time imagining what they would do to the people.
Well, and
That's-
it's different. It's different because the thing is that person is a challenge to their power.
Yeah,
it's different than society.
seriously.
It's not the same thing. It's
Yeah, what do you mean? The rulers,
the
rules were.
Ottoman Empire, and there is
rules
those
were-
issues. There are those
Ru-
issues. Mehmed, Suleiman, all of that. There's complexities, but that's just rulership. That's how the kingships were. The Ottoman Empire was not different than the European empires. So
Yeah, no one's holding up that guy as a paramount of like Islamic rule. We're talking about like, you know, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Omar, the four righteous caliphites, Ali. We're talking about like Salahuddin, like who honored his contracts, who didn't slaughter Christians when he gave them the promise, like because he thought it was unnecessary death for no reason. We're talking about like these virtuous rulers. We're not talking about like some crazy dude in the Ottoman Empire who imprisoned his brothers because he's like, no one's holding that guy up as like paramount of like a good ruler. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but it was my understanding that what is the most normal thing for the rulers, and I feel like if someone would do that to their own family, it's not hard for me to think that they would be horrible to the people.
Max, do you think so? Right now we have like a liberal government, right? People like the guy Julian Assange, right? Okay, he had power and he could actually fight against power. So he released all those docs, right? And because of that, now they're trying to get him back into the US to try him for treason, which calls for the death penalty, right? You and me saying some normie shit on a online podcast when we're just like normal people with no power. I'm not going to get executed. You're probably not going to get executed. Leo, for being a communist, isn't going to get executed. But someone like Julian Assange could be because he holds power. That's what me and Isak say.
I don't agree with Julian Assange being executed. I think that's
me
really
neither.
wrong, and I think that he should be returned to Australia, which is actually his nationality, to be tried in Australia because he is a member of this country, and it's kind of really wrong for them to bypass normal extradition and just take somebody. But you know, where we do whatever America wants. So you know there is that.
Tried for what? Tried for what? What would he be tried for in Australia? What did he do?
Probably sort of violations of secrecy acts, accessing government secrets. Probably conspiracy, because if he conspired with people to steal those secrets, then he is complicit, because you can charge people with conspiracy if they were in on it. But it depends, you know, and not to have a proper investigation and things is really wrong, in my opinion. It should be transparent to the people. But, you know, I understand your concerns. I share your concerns. It doesn't mean that everything that happens in, you know, this capitalist paradigm that we're in, I don't think that's secular humanism either. It seems like, Hussein, I mean, I hate to say it again, but it seems like anything, hang on. Anything secular, you're kind of leveraging against secular humanists, like anything secular at all.
No, I wasn't saying that those people technically are quote unquote secular humanists. Again, it kind of goes back to like my point where, again, like I'm asking you guys like, well, okay, what is like a secular humanist moral, right? In like a micro level, or like should the government be able to kill Julian Assange then for treason, right?
No.
And if
no, a moral would be only kill people unless absolutely necessary to preserve life or the bodily integrity of others.
So can we put capital punishment for serial killers in your secular humanist view?
No.
Okay, interesting.
No. Okay, just
No.
quickly, I have another super chat. I'm sorry. Maximiliano has struck again. You can't stop. You can't stop them. You just can't stop them. For $5 Singaporean. But since you mentioned none of them are ideal Islamic states, I thought to ask what would one be like? Otherwise, isn't this a no true Scotsman's? Okay, so he's basically asking you, what would the ideal state be like?
Well, you would do it from traditional Islamic thought. So you had a caliph that was kind of elected. There were different processes of how this caliph would be. They would be considered the Amir al-Mu'mineen, the commander of the believers. There would be an agreement in this situation, and these people would be ethical, moral leaders. They couldn't just be, people who are doing living the kind of a life that is not ethical. So these were ethical, moral leaders. That's why it's very difficult in the Islamic community. So in Ahl Sunnah Jama'ah, or what we would call the Sunni tradition, there's what there's called the Caliphate Rashidin. So these were righteously guided caliphs. After that, in the Islamic history, it gets really complex. You have Muawiyah, you have Yazid. It gets very, in like the Umayyad dynasty, a lot of the Muslims are like, well, these were not righteously guided caliphs. I don't understand what would be the no true Scotsman fallacy. The thing is, what would be considered an ideal? It's not really saying, I don't think any of these people in these countries would actually disagree with what I'm saying or what Hussein's saying. These are nation states. These are not Islamic states. Pakistan is a nation state. It's not saying it's an Islamic. It's trying to follow Islam, but it can't be. It's not following the traditional rules. There are traditional rules of how it works.
So Blogging Theology had like a good video on it too, where they said like under Sharia, like the nation and then the rulers are all underneath God's command. So they have to act morally, or if not, then they have the right to be disposed. So basically people use that as like a way to revolt against bad leaders. But basically, like I've given examples. I think Isa's given examples. Like if you'd like to know what those rulers did, I mean, basically they were rulers who ruled righteously. Which goes back to fostering good character and good faith. And, and there's even like people who are secular, who are atheists, who argue for virtue ethics. And basically that you do need to do the work to cultivate a good moral character. So.
Okay, well, Sydney Raptor had a question, and I do like to get to John's questions. It's a question for Hussein. Can you justify any Islamic morals that were new and not based upon very old evolutionary or societally established morals?
Can I justify any new rules?
Any new morals, yeah.
Banning alcohol.
It does take heavily from the
I understand what you're saying. And this is what I was trying to explain, where like there's three versions. So for example, like alcohol being banned is just like divine command. There's utilitarian aspects that you can argue, but the point is that just God bans alcohol, right? Same with pork. It's just something you do. Then there's things that are virtue ethic based, and like what would like Muhammad and Jesus and all peace be upon them all these prophets would do. And then does that make sense? And then there's like these consequentialist aspects of what would. So does that make sense? As far as something new, I mean, you could say like banning alcohol, obviously.
I would push.
That's not something intuitive.
I would push against you on that, because I'm reading the verse, and the reason that alcohol is banned, it's not because it's harmful or anything. It's because it distracts you from God, from what I'm reading here.
And plus there's about 3 verses on alcohol, and the next ones abrogate the earlier ones. So it started out as sort of, it wasn't banned, but it was discouraged. And then that was abrogated for one that sort of was, you shouldn't have it. And then the last one was sort of, it's completely banned kind of thing. So there's 3 different verses about alcohol in the Quran.
And then
Yeah,
we
but
can
the-
look at the implementation of that it didn't happen at once. It happened gradually. And because people were getting drunk and going to the mosque. So there's such an earthly undertone to all of this.
Wait.
which
Okay,
gets
Max.
overlooked all the time.
So Max, you're ignoring the whole Islamic narrative. So for example, not narrative, but how do I explain it? So, okay. The prophet, for example, in this story, he asks, someone asks, well, how do I be a good Muslim, right? And he says, he's a very like rough fellow, okay? And he says, oh, you just need to give charity, pray, make pilgrimage, and he says like, and believe in the God. And then he says, okay, if you had asked me anything else, I wouldn't have followed you. Basically, he's saying that he needs to do these initial aspects of the religion before you can like give up these sins. And it goes into the whole point of, like we said, virtue ethics, about cultivating good personality, okay? And you can see that with Muslims. So there will be Muslims who don't really take the faith seriously, and then they take it more seriously. As they grow in faith, they start to leave these vices. So like alcohol, gambling, stuff like that, because they're cultivating their relationship with God to leave those things. So you're saying, oh, it's an earthly tone, but like you're missing the whole point of what he's telling the people to do.
Yeah, but again, now you're
That's not-
referring to the vices, and you can drink alcohol and not be an alcoholic. You can gamble a couple of times and not be a gambling addict. You can do all of these things without them being dangerous or bad for you.
I'll let you say
Dave has a question. He just wants to know what country you live in, Hussein.
Huh? Well, I said
Dave
America.
from Captive Desk, America. Okay, sorry, I thought so. I just wanted to double check.
Wait, why?
Thank you. Oh, just somebody in the chat, Dave from Captive Desk. He does a little interviews and things like that. Really good channel.
America,
he was just asking.
fuck yeah.
Can we not?
Man, that's twice this week that movie's been quoted in my life.
Like, I think Issa wanted to say something, by the way, on that.
Sorry, Issa, go for it.
What was the thing? I forgot. What was the point?
He said that like the how Islam said it didn't immediately ban alcohol,
Right.
and then did begin to ban alcohol.
Great. I do want to talk about that. So it's actually was following the Hebrew law. So you have to understand that Islam is a continuation of the Hebrew tradition. Some people think that they have some difficulty with that, but it is. The Quran directly quotes the Talmud, where it says, if you take one life, it's like taking all of humanity, and if you save one life, it's saving all of humanity. This is another injunction too. So the Torah has the same position, where it's like initially, and it's the same thing too, because the Muslims initially prayed to Jerusalem before they prayed to Mecca. So it was the same continuation. So the idea was that if it's okay to drink alcohol, but there is more bad than there is good. What's the ultimate teaching. But ultimately what happens is you can drink but don't get drunk. That's the injunction. It's all right to drink, but you can't get drunk. But the problem was that the community was having a lot of difficulty with this. So they were getting drunk and they were praying. And this is why it was kind of like a further teaching. It's sort of like Christ's teaching on the Hebrew scriptures in the New Testament, where, Jesus said, if you do something wrong, it's like you have to remove that body part. So it's like a higher.
They were getting drunk and praying?
Yeah, they were getting drunk and praying.
Are we sure that maybe Allah wasn't just irritated with the slurred prayers?
No. Okay. Wait. So I have a question on this. Like, when we talk about alcohol use, right? Like, even under a utilitarian framework, where, right, you could argue, just like God's command, it does more harm than good. I mean, like, what good is actually like alcohol providing for most people? Like, if you go to like any club or bar and like you're completely sober, if you go there completely sober, I mean, most people would describe like a weird feeling, like these people aren't themselves, and it's like a very like weird experience that you're witnessing.
No.
What?
I've been to clubs in both like wasted, like utterly shattered, And I also now I club like sober because I when I go there I'm regularly DJing, and
Okay, but have you?
I get no feeling of that. That's a projection.
you
That's
talking
No,
you're
it's not a
inventing
projection.
stuff.
Have you seen have you gone with your friends? So I don't
Yes,
drink, but I
I've
don't drink.
done
But
anything you
I
can
know.
imagine in the club. Yeah.
Let me explain. So
I
this is a
don't
very
know what you're talking about.
okay. So this is a very anecdotal experience, but I can explain. So, for example, most of my experiences with like my American friends who go out and drink is that they drink. It is an inhibitor, so it lowers what is it? It lowers
Inhibitions, yes.
inhibitions. Yeah. So then they go and then they do stupid stuff, and they're like, "Oh, I was just drunk." Ha 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 ha. But in reality, you're seeing like this terrible side of them, and it's horrible. And then they're making stupid decisions. And then me being DD, for example, I'm having to take care of them. And so, like, yeah, you can literally see alcohol as the poison it is when you're sober. But when you're not sober and you're just going along with it, then you're going along with it. Does that
What do you
make
think
sense?
of mushrooms? What do you think of mushrooms?
I don't have
Like the
any
drug,
let's
psilocybin
continue
mushrooms.
on this point first.
Well, we are on that point. This question is related
I'm
to something
actually
you said.
I'm actually kind of 100% with him on this.
Well,
So
here's the thing. I feel a lot more uncomfortable watching Pentecostals do sort of talking in tongues than going to the pub or something. I think that it may be unusual for me to go to a mosque and see everybody pray. I would probably feel uncomfortable because I'm not used to that environment. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with it. This is where you're sort of using a moral intuition to sort of go, oh, well, that's right and that's wrong, purely based on your feelings. I think that a lot of people, even while sober, would find there's a lot of comradeship in pubs generally. There's a lot of people enjoying themselves and a lot of I've been in places where there's a lot of love going around, to be honest with you. There's
I get what you're saying, Mark,
Mhm.
but you can
Yeah,
do
there's love
these
going around.
things. You can do these things without alcohol and like with healthier habits.
Yeah, but it's not as fun. Like that sucks.
Some
I mean,
people
you
when
can
they
do
get
all.
drunk, they're just completely out of control. And then if you're someone like me who doesn't drink,
that's bad.
You end up spending your whole night either arguing, fighting, or just avoiding them when you don't even really want to be avoiding them, and it's terrible. But there's some people that actually I don't care if they're drunk. I have a cousin. I'm not even sure what he's like sober. He's perfectly entertaining drunk. But then there's other people where if I know there's going to be alcohol around, it's like I will actually determine whether or not I want to go to that event, knowing that there's going to be that person plus alcohol. I'll just be like, I'll stay home.
But I mean, when I used to drink, I was a bit of a happy drunk who would generally, tell everybody he loved them all the time, kind of thing. You get those people. It's not like your experiences are just anecdotal. They are.
Yeah, and I have the complete opposite anecdote as you. I've had killer times on like 10 drops of LSD, and most people couldn't take the stuff that I've taken in regards to drugs.
Max,
and
that's a weird flex, but sure.
Yeah, and no, I haven't. They're not that available here. Oh. Yeah, of course. But it's all up to you. So you have maybe hang around with irresponsible people, but I hang around with people who do a lot of drugs and have a killer time. They don't do anything weird. They
people
don't
who can
mess
handle
with anyone,
themselves.
And they go about their day. So you have an anecdote. I have the completely opposing anecdote. Sure. So what do we do now? Like,
well, my anecdote aligns with yours.
The problems is when these things become addictions, when these people get drunk and they get aggressive. But those people, when they get drunk and they become aggressive, they were always aggressive. It's just that alcohol reduces their ability to control their natural impulses.
You know what really pissed me off a few years ago when the pandemic hit, going into the Walmart and the video game section was closed off with tape and like you can't come into the electronics section. We're not selling electronics. But in the grocery section, you could have all the beer you want. That pissed me right off.
Can I just say, because like I've never been here before, I'm used to more of a roundtable format, so I guess I just gotta throw a word in edgewise. As far as this like alcohol and drugs thing goes, like I personally don't drink. I used to, not as an addict, but I've had experiences that I think are consistent with what everybody is saying, and I find that when we're talking about alcohol, people can be assholes whether they're drunk or not. People can have a good time whether they're drunk or not. I find the stigma with alcohol and drugs in general. It's
I have a completely different opinion on drugs, by the way.
Well, some people they'll use it as an excuse. They'll say like, "Oh, I did that because I was drunk," you know, and if they're not drunk, like to me, it varies by the individual. And to say like we gotta either get rid of it all because this one person ruined it for everybody, I find
not one person; it's like the vast majority of people.
Well, here's the thing, like we don't
disagree.
have the same understanding of addiction and substance abuse that we used to back in the day. And so if you're going to talk about things like abusing substances and the negative effects of alcohol, at least familiarize yourself with the problems behind substance abuse, because it isn't just the substance that's causing it. What it is that substance is a coping mechanism for things that they can't handle in their life.
No, I already know that. I already know that, Mark. But my point is instead of they are distracting.
Historical context, I think it's also worth being aware that in the past, clean water wasn't as easy to come by, and so spirits and distilled beverages were actually cleaner and safer to drink. Like it's something that's a historical fact.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not like that's why it's like abrogated and later. But my whole point is like when I brought up last time in the roundtable about drug use, for example, my whole point was instead of what's going to encourage people. What?
Drugs are bad. Okay.
But yeah, basically, so like what's going to encourage society and people to reflect and get through that quote unquote thing that they're coping through? Is it going to be useless distractions like drugs and alcohol? Or is it going to be like being sober and yeah, it's going to suck for a bit, but you're going to get over it? And so that's the whole point. That's the whole point. You guys are just like, oh no,
you just said that 3 times now. If your whole point is escapism is bad, then it's not necessarily limited to alcohol and drugs. People can use prayer as an escape. People can use snowboarding as an escape. People can use train sets, food. Yes, there are many escapes, and I think there's lots of things.
Are you just listing the things Leo, are you just listing your hobbies right
now?
No,
I was listing things that like video games.
Sorry, go ahead, Tyler.
Shopping.
Sorry, Tyler. That's totally my fault. Go ahead, Tyler. I'm sorry.
Well, I was just saying that addressing the issue of escapism might be more efficient and effective than just saying we're going to ban this one thing wholesale.
Yeah, so yeah, a good way of addressing that would be cultivating a virtuous person who is self-disciplined, but that is antithetical, or the antithesis to basically what liberalism is promoting and capitalism. When conjunct,
I think the solution is more access to mental health, but also, yeah, what psychologists, psychiatrists. That's how you actually get people well. It's not like, hey, tough it up. You're not depressed. You're just a pussy.
So one thing, I definitely agree with that, Max. We definitely should have therapy in our society. That's definitely helpful and supportive. That's my work. That's actually what I do. I do therapy, and I'm doing a social work degree. So that's the part. I do chaplaincy. So that's the kind of stuff that I do personally. But I think it's okay for a society to encourage certain morals. I think a lot of the Islamic societies of old were primarily what you would call libertarian. A lot of folks kind of did self-regulation within their own spaces. It was not like this authoritarian type of space that people think it was. So I definitely think you can encourage certain activity and you can support it within society. I think it's definitely hard to have a negative, what do they call it? It's better to have a positive reinforcement society as opposed to like negative reinforcement. But the idea that what Hussein was saying is that the things are on the textbook because they're saying, hey, And it's the same thing as the Jewish law. The Hebrew law and the Islamic law are interconnected. A lot of people don't know it, but it's the same stuff. It's the same thing. So the Hebrews take it the same way. They're like, these things are on the textbook, but our goal is not to use them. It's just to understand how difficult and terrible these situations are if we're looking at a religious argument. So it's the same kind of thing. But the idea is that we shouldn't have to implement this because our society needs to be better, you know.
Dead air.
Mhm.
Well, that's funny.
Someone say something.
Something.
I mean,
Okay,
yeah.
Issa wins. Not too late. Clock that. That's the bell.
Yeah,
we're all down for a
he
touchdown.
shut
Issa
everyone
wins.
up. It's a yes.
Yeah. All right. Well, see you guys tomorrow.
Justin, what video game really made you angry about, that you were going to get it in COVID and you just couldn't get it?
It was more the priority of we weren't going to allow people to buy like electronics or furniture during lockdown because
Oh yeah,
Walmart's
but you
like
can go get
a
shit
mega
faced.
store, but groceries was still open, and in the groceries there's alcohol.
Yeah.
And it was like that to me was really frustrating. And
Nothing
in
says-
Ontario, our beer sales and our alcohol sales are also primarily government controlled. So there's special buildings. There's a beer store and a liquor store. They were open,
Of course they were open.
but I couldn't buy.
Nothing says
entertainment.
healthy society, dude, like liquor.
Well, I mean,
But
but a lot
why-
of these societal problems, so some of it does come down to the effect of capitalism, because until I knew people with alcohol addiction, I didn't think about how much advertising is in the alcohol industry. And when somebody sort of tells you and points your attention to it, it's crazy how much they're advertised and like just how ubiquitous it is all around you and you just don't notice. So a lot of these problems can stem from sort of late stage capitalism rather than the thing itself. So
And even
sorry, go ahead, mate. No, I'm finished.
No, I was going to say that even in the last World Cup in Qatar, Budweiser won. They sold beer at the stadiums. So it's all good with Sharia,
For
but
probably like
as long as
$16 a piece.
Wait, are you sure? I
money-
thought they lost. I thought the
No,
British people were
no,
mouthing
they-
about that.
no.
I'm pretty sure you're.
Well, the British
I'm
were
pretty sure
probably
you're right.
moulding, but that's all they ever fucking
No,
do.
the
goddamn
Qatar World
Britons.
Cup, no alcohol. I thought it was a big thing I read about.
Don't
Because
they
British
drink
people
beer
were moulding.
warm? Does it even count as drinking? Never mind. Sorry.
Well,
Yeah,
if I was to legalize one drug in society, I could only legalize one. It wouldn't be alcohol. It would probably be weed, to be honest with you. Like there's a
Absolutely.
lot less societal problems with weed than alcohol.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was where gonna be where my position flips completely. Ever since Canada legalized marijuana, I hadn't touched it since I was a teenager, but since it was like legal and now you can get it in so many different varieties of edibles and things of that sort.
Potent too.
I mean, I'm gonna tell you guys right now, I was on sour gummies all night last night playing Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
Hell
and
yeah.
it was fantastic.
Yes.
It was chill.
I love
Very
getting
good.
stoned.
I
And
had
playing
a great
RuneScape.
Dane on one side, a bag of Cheetos on the other side, and I
Were you
even bought an
streaming it?
orange PS5 controller so I could eat the Cheetos. It's fantastic.
Were you streaming it, Justin?
No, I was not. I decided
Okay.
Final Fantasy was just for me.
That was for you, yeah. No, I thought that I was going to watch it, but I did have to do my
And
presentation.
there's
and
a
research
there's a
and stuff, so-
problem with that game. You can't stream it because of the music. You get automatically flagged. So yeah, it's a
Really?
problem.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, way to
the-
make your game like it's free advertising. Just shut up and take it. Like,
Justin,
just-
wait, are any of you guys in America?
Clearly.
Okay, wait.
Yeah.
Do you guys not
Tyler
find
and
it-
I are Canadian. Leo's American. He's us in America. Max has his own private island in the Pacific, and I'm anonymous. Just got here.
Okay, so
and
don't
I'm
you guys find
currently
it-
in a prison colony. Just
Yeah.
letting you know.
I love Canada. Yeah, you bitch. It's such a wonderful country, you know.
You know.
Yeah. Sorry,
I want to
Mr.
welcome
Ask.
anonymous theist. I would like to give you a chance to talk because you're just rocked up. So if you did see the debate, what are your thoughts? If not, you feel free to talk about anything else. Hello,
Yeah, what's up?
Oh Lord.
how are you?
Great.
Yeah, I think he said knows too.
Okay.
Did you watch the debate? What thoughts do you have on that?
I think secular humanism is inherently flawed. So
Yep. Why?
This is the troll we get on Matters Now.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
I knew it the minute he came in. I was just like, I know exactly
as soon
who
as
this
he
is.
spoke,
Why
yeah,
is
I
he-
know.
Why does he sound like the Joker in the beginning?
So
just warning you, this is a troll.
I'm
okay.
not a troll.
Yes, you are.
Okay, well let it's Mark's channel. Okay, never mind.
No, that's
I was gonna
fine.
say let Mark play with him for a little bit and see what happens.
Yeah,
You can tell he's a
we're-
troll because that's the worst fucking attempt at a British accent I've ever heard in my life.
Oh, it's Mango. Yeah, no, I gotcha. It's Mango.
Yeah, he comes and he puts names on like Flat Earther and tries to troll when we're doing after shows and stuff.
okay.
It was a beautiful British accent, right, Leo?
Hey. All
I
right,
think he was trying to do
It was Mark's accent.
I think he was trying to do my accent. I think he was trying to copy my accent. Sorry.
No, but
buddy.
remember, you're English, according to Ross.
Apparently so. Yeah.
Well, Australian isn't hard. The rule is if the word ends in an O, add an R, and there you go, Australian.
So Leo,
No, I'm sorry. There you go, Australian.
There you go.
Oh, I'm
Leo.
sorry, I had to.
My culture is being dragged through the mud.
Leo.
What's up?
So if you're a communist, don't you think that
When did I say I was a communist? I said I was a
Marxist.
Marxist.
Someone said you were a
Marxist.
communist. I was gonna correct it, but yeah, he's not actually a communist.
okay, sorry, Marxist, whatever. Okay, sorry. Since you're a Marxist, right? Okay.
All right.
If the population wasn't, say, for example, distracting themselves with like alcohol and drug use and like whatever like little thing they want to distract themselves, don't you think it would raise class consciousness and increase the global workforce to revolt
No.
against our oppressors?
No,
Okay.
I don't think people are quote unquote
It's news
distracting
lost, dude.
themselves with drugs and alcohol, because drugs and alcohol have existed under every mode of production in human society and have been used relatively extensively under every mode of production that has existed in human society. So capitalism is clearly not a cause of that.
I never said capitalism was a cause. I said it's in a capitalist or ruling class, much like the Romans distracted when their empire is failing, they're distracting their citizenry with gladiator and spectacle. America is doping the masses with weed and alcohol and like.
I would actually say it's
as
doping
long
the
as it
masses
doesn't
with
involve actually
pharmaceuticals, not weed and alcohol.
Yeah, pharmaceuticals as well. As long as it doesn't, like SSRIs, I definitely think are overprescribed, stuff like that. As long as it distracts the American citizen from seeing that their country is actually just being leached.
I don't think that in America we need to do that, because I think Americans are already so distanced from concepts like class consciousness, largely because of their education system and how little about Marx it teaches compared to other countries, which still also teach only a little, and there are reasons for that. I just think that Americans are already so dumb that the capitalist class, the ruling class, doesn't need to go as far to distract them as it would in other places where people are more educated. And I'm being honest, when it comes to like economic stuff and social analysis, Americans are like the dumbest fucking people on the planet when it comes to that. So, like, it's so bad.
I would like to respond to that too. Actually, I think it's people are going to do what people want to do regardless. There's going to be drugs and alcohol going around, whether it's legal or not. So rather than spend a small fortune on throwing people in jail for something so silly, just control it, make some money off of it. One of the best things Canada did was legalizing marijuana.
Do you understand the point of like liberal governments is that you're using government law and like taxes and all this stuff to provide a social coercion? So for example, like when they tax tobacco heavily, for example, it is literally getting people to quit tobacco. So for example, a healthy society would be like, okay, you can have alcohol, but we're going to heavily tax it so that it's higher price so that people don't become alcoholics, for example.
Right, but at the same time, it's allowing them their freedom to do whatever they want.
Sure. So I'm saying are you guys even okay with that? Are you even okay with that?
I am totally okay with that.
Okay, thank you.
But we have universal health care as well. So a large part of that tobacco tax goes to offset all these people smoking as well.
Yeah, in Uruguay they do it. Here they do the same. If you want to quit smoking, you can literally get a medication that makes cigarettes taste disgustingly.
Actually, exactly how I quit.
And you
was
can
with the
get
pill.
that for free because of the high taxes that the tobacco has on them.
Yeah, because that same government also offers the out or the other side of the coin as well.
Yeah, I think,
Yeah.
I think
We
the
have
government
casinos,
should.
but we also have services for people with gambling addictions. Like,
Correct,
sure, we've
yeah.
got alcohol, but here's some aids to help you for this, because there's always going to be people who are going to. I think it was
That's
Gigi in the
because-
chat said it best before. It's moderation, right? There's going to be some people that are going to take it too far. Some people. I saw a video the other day. It was a short about people from the '80s when drinking and driving became outlawed, and a guy was so pissed that he wasn't going to be able to drink his beer in his car on his drive home, his commute home. It was just like,
I to be I can't even enjoy beer.
Leo, you are
It's
roboting. You are roboting,
just
Leo.
me,
So
or
I'm gonna
he's-
like
Oh.
fix your robot voice,
Whoa.
and I'm
I
gonna
don't
say hello
know how.
to Siddharth, who I know is not a troll. Hi Siddharth, how you doing?
What up?
Hey guys, am I audible?
Yes.
Real quick side comment, Max. If you look at the link, Qatar did have alcohol banned. Based.
Yeah, it was. Maybe I was wrong.
No, you're cool. You're
I
cool.
think
Fair
you were
enough,
thinking
yeah.
about the South American World Cup where they did win.
Probably, yeah. I'm sorry, I don't follow. I remember the controversy, but yeah.
No, yeah, it's fine. You could look up like British people. They were like, oh, actually, we kind of liked it. Like we weren't rowdy, blah 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 blah. Like no one did anything stupid, and they contributed it to no alcohol, by the way. So, and if you know football fans, they're always down to fight.
Anyways, new panelist. Hello.
Oh, he's fixing his mic.
Hello.
Okay.
Yep. I think I should be audible now. Okay. Yeah. Hey guys, how's it going?
Howdy.
Hello.
Well,
To be honest, I don't
Pretty
have
good.
much to add, so I'm just here contributing, like listening. So I'll just stick to that.
Yeah, no problem, Siddharth. Thanks for joining us, though. It's good to have you on.
Yep. Nice
Welcome.
being here.
So when Uruguay legalized, was the first country in the world to legalize marijuana, and a percentage of the tax money goes to basically addiction prevention programs. And I always say, it's like, know yourself, know your substance, get educated on what you're doing, be responsible, and have fun. If you follow that, you can do pretty much anything safely.
yeah, because that's what I do. I've never
And
been.
I don't drink, but I did enjoy drugs. I haven't done drugs in many, many years. I did a little bit of drugs in December. But now it's because I'm older, I have other responsibilities, but times change. You can enjoy. And I had a great time when I was doing them. But then I started DJing more. So when I went to DJ to an event, I didn't take drugs. And then it started happening more and more. And it got relegated to... And I used to take drugs for a period of my life, every weekend. And then I just stopped. And I didn't, because I know myself, there's stuff that I wouldn't take, like cocaine, for example.
Yeah,
So
you never-
there's
you
a
ain't never
lot
biced?
about... No, there's a lot about knowing yourself and the substances that are around you.
The fact that you know
Well,
what I meant when I
Hussein.
said based is funny.
I think getting back to sort of morale or ethics in general, what would you say would be a list of human rights that people would have?
You're asking me?
Yeah.
Well, like even under the thought experiment, I think human rights would be very limitedly defined. So I don't agree with what certain Marxists or maybe leftists say, for example. So basically,
Well, you don't have to talk about them. What I'm asking is, what human rights would you?
Yeah. So like the right to self-defense, the right to life. You don't really have like the right to food or shelter because you have to do that yourself.
Wait, but then how do you have the right to life if you need those to live? That makes no sense.
Meaning someone can't unjustly kill you.
But Hussein, there is zakat though. Like I do think that is a part of the Islamic
No,
system.
no. I'm not ignoring. No, I wasn't even bringing up Islamic law. I'm talking about.
Okay.
I'm talking about in a purely secular, liberal worldview. Like if you buy into the liberal project as human rights are founded in nature, and you use the thought experiment. Well, what would a human right have, like in a original state, right, if you will, right, the state of nature. Okay, like basically you only have the right to like not have someone unjustly kill you, and the right to life, and the right to self-defense. You don't have a right for food because you have to do that yourself. Like that's not a right, that's you having to go out and do it. Same thing with you don't have the right to shelter. Like, you have to build your own shelter. So when leftists try and say, for example, oh well, housing's a human right, well, like in the state of nature, if you're buying into liberalism, it's not.
But leftists don't buy into liberalism. So yeah.
No, yeah. Dude.
So what if we can give food to people without them having to like go out and like farm their lives away? Like what if we technologically develop to that point, kind of like we have now? See, this is the problem with certain rights, is that they're just vague. Like right to life. Well, what does that mean? What is the right to life? I would consider that to include things like water, food, and shelter, the basic necessities to sustaining your existence. That's, to me, what it means to say right to life. So sometimes we got to define what we're even talking about when we outline these rights, because they can just be vague. Right,
wouldn't you include?
So I mean,
wouldn't you include education, for example, as something like one of those basic rights to life?
I think that it is, yes. So I think the same with healthcare.
Yeah. Okay, we agree on that.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm just thinking about
it's totally different, but okay. I mean, not with you guys. In a way, it's similar to like socialism, per se. Kind of, but I'm just saying, like,
everybody believes in some form of socialism, Hussein. I mean, everybody agrees that we should have a shared social responsibility, and like, you wouldn't want a private fire department, for instance.
No, I'm not. Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying I would want that.
That sounds like a wicked Black Mirror.
Can you guys come to my house? We have a fire.
I'm saying,
how big is the fire? How many rooms?
So interestingly enough, the fire department started out as a privatized thing. You used to have fire companies that you would pay to put a plaque on your house, and if it burnt down, and the fire people weren't, on the plaque, they would just drive on by. They didn't stop. We sort of learnt from that fire spreads quickly, and that's a really bad idea to have a private like fire agency to service people. Like it's a shared responsibility.
The founding fathers.
Agree with you, but where do you find this? So like with these rights that you guys talk about, rights, right? Where are you finding them in materialism or naturalism? Like where is this?
Yeah,
right
but what do you mean when you ask that? Like there isn't a store that I go to and find them and buy them. Like I don't even know what you mean. I don't even know what you're asking.
So, but it just sounds like you guys are just asserting that this right exists, and I'm asking you to explain to me.
I would think
in a natural or material world, why does this just exist somehow?
I would think of it like this. It comes right back to our governments and who we elect, right? If one politician is saying, I think everyone has a right to free healthcare, another one is saying, no, let's leave that privatized. It goes to the polls. So the rights come from the people and the majority of those people.
Okay, so I think that, as far as I'm concerned, rights are derived from the Maslow's hierarchy of human needs. Like humans need certain things in order to survive and flourish. So you've got things like shelter and water and food, and those things you cannot survive without. There's also other needs on that hierarchy. When we don't really use Maslow's anymore, but there's still that hierarchy of needs. Things like safety and security, right? They're things, self-actualization at the top, correct. So all of these kind of are rights, because you cannot have a happy human without them. We know that from psychology and sociology. We can't have happy humans without those things.
Yeah, but why is happiness a human right under a purely natural?
I never said
worldview?
happiness was. I said
Happiness
that's
is
the
more
goal.
of the goal.
That's the goal of secular humanism.
For me, the goal is contentfulness and positive freedom for all humans. Not just negative freedom, positive freedom.
I actually agree with Leo on that point. Socrates once said the secret to happiness in life is not in seeking more, but in cultivating the ability to be content with less. And it's a fascinating concept.
So happiness, like the greatest happiness principle, isn't really about those fleeting moments of happiness in your life. It's about an overall, like it's very, very misunderstood. I use the term well-being because I think it's more understandable to people, average people out there. So when I'm talking about happiness, I'm talking about well-being, which is both the physical and psychological health of humans. So that's what I'm talking about.
I agree with that. I like that term a lot, actually, well-being.
Yeah, because when we say happiness, it's derived from, I can't remember the author, but he first outlined the greatest happiness principle. And he's not talking about the emotion. He's really not. He's talking about the sort of the flourishing of society rather than any specific emotion of people. So he really is talking about life. Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry,
I've got a super chat to read. No worries at all. Maximiliano strikes again. Thank you so much, Max. I really appreciate it, mate. Singaporean, $5 Singaporean. I'm still waiting on Hussein's position on same-sex marriage, other than why would they want to do it? Equality should be a basic human right. I'm right there with you, and I don't think we got a reason.
You guys are killing me, dude. You guys are killing me. You guys throw out this assertion, right? So you're saying equality should be a human right, but why? Like, no one explain to me, or like, is marriage a human right now? Like, why don't we just keep inventing more rights? Like,
no,
you're never
but
justifying
access to it might
these
be
rights. You're never justifying the right. Like, why do you have the right to marriage? Again, if you're saying, okay, you have a right to marriage, incels are right then. You should have a designated girlfriend. Justin, you should have a designated
no, because
you have the human right to marriage. That's what you guys are like.
All right,
but really, hang on, hold it, everybody, hold it. So really, he's asking, what is your position on it and why? Right. So he's asking for justification, not just why they wouldn't do that. So Hussein, I really want you to be honest and say, are you opposed to same-sex marriage? And why are you opposed to same-sex marriage? Not about what they would or wouldn't want, but rather what makes it wrong for same-sex people to get married.
Yeah, so I did explain this, but I think you guys kind of brushed over it. I said the whole point of marriage and a bond like that was to basically foster like a familiar tide. And then in current times, obviously, we have tax breaks and stuff for basically having children. It's not about like the marriage bond is about populating the basically having a population, right, to replace us. So these tax breaks,
you can have a population without being married, though.
Well, I don't.
That's a pretty narrow definition.
Hang on. Let Hussein finish. I don't think we glossed over it. I think we disagree with you on that premise. That's the difference.
Sure. It just wasn't really talked about is all I meant when I say glossed over. You guys said, oh, I disagree, and then we moved on. So
okay. Well, we disagree on that premise. Absolutely.
Okay. And then the point about the marriage is that so like, yes, you cannot be married and still have a population, but like the point is that the most successful families and typically for parents is within like 2-parent household, as well as like a family or a unit, and like you knowing who your parents are, right? So like you have a bunch of effed up situations where you have like orphans or adoptive parents who they never know who their family is, and it is very traumatic for people. So like the whole point is that for the benefit of the child and future generations, you encourage marriage and family sticking together.
Wouldn't
so
having all of these orphans be a great reason to have people who can't procreate on their own so that they can provide a loving home?
Sterile people who can't have children should not get married. Is that a thing?
No, people can. It's okay. I never said. So people who can get married, sure. Like who can't have children can get married, sure. I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah, but everything you said.
I'm saying I'm saying the marriage caveat or like the tax breaks and all that stuff is specifically for those reasons.
Right, and same-sex couples can have all of that, because guess who is adopting the children that straight couples are abandoning? It's the people who want to have children and they can't, mainly infertile people or same-sex couples. And why shouldn't they get the same benefits? Why shouldn't they get inheritance if their spouse dies? In Uruguay, we legalize same-sex
I don't
marriage.
have a. So, like, again, in Islamic societies, there's the joke of like, he's my live-in best friend or something. And the implication is basically that they're gay. Okay. But no one really talks about it, or like, how do I explain it? They obviously don't admit it. Okay. But in the will, they can definitely give stuff. People make wills and they give stuff to their friends or to, relatives, or in this case, their lover that's on the down low. And there's nothing wrong with that. In like Islamic societies, they had that. So the whole point is you just don't propagate it. And the whole point is that marriage is specifically for those reasons of procreating.
But I mean that gay people can still procreate.
Okay,
I don't know
until recently, okay, like with the weird research, they couldn't do that.
They
like
can do. They
What do you mean it's weird research?
What do you mean weird research?
research?
Oh my lord!
Yeah, you can just hire someone if
A
you're
surrogate,
surrogate, and you can adopt. There's more. You don't have to. You don't have to do in vitro fertilization. You can do it naturally.
Do you think it's weird that gay people? Okay, so
no, I don't.
No, I don't think it's weird.
Without finishing the question, I know I don't.
My point is that many of them, like, instead of adopting, they're paying for
what I think is weird, Hussein, is the amount that you've got a problem with it for no apparent reason whatsoever. I mean, if you want to just say, hey, my religious beliefs say it's wrong, that would be one thing. But you're bringing up a lot of reasons that don't seem like they track. Like, well, they can't have kids. A lot of hetero people can't have kids. It's for straight people with no reason as to why that is at all. There seems to be no real rational reason apart from you don't like it. And I feel like, and I could be wrong, but I feel like that is religious based.
It is like some kind of a predisposition. Like even I can like feel it when I wouldn't frame many things the way he's framed them. And like to me, it feels like I would say I wouldn't like. I mean, indoctrination is a bit too much. I would say like you just grow up, being told us some certain things, and it's hard to get rid of them, like without a lot of critical thinking or something.
And you sort of are assuming that having more and more and more offspring is the best thing for society, when it may be that the world is kind of getting overpopulated as far as resources are concerned. That just like creating more and more people may not be the best thing for us right now, considering that we're approaching 8 billion people on the planet.
Okay, how can we somehow be increasing gross domestic product and we are supposedly at the most, per your guys' logic, greatest time to be alive. We have the most amount of resources available, and people have admitted we do have the amount of food. The problem is in distributing that food, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, actually,
that's not even the problem.
We're
not overpopulated.
Yeah, I don't think we're overpopulated.
Well, yes, but the resources won't last forever. What we're doing is looking into the future. We're going, okay, what's going to be the outcome of just growth upon growth upon growth of the human population? There will be, a time somewhere where either the resources won't be enough or there'll be too many people. And that's just a fact. Like, you can't do the math and go that.
You're saying that we're going to reach that, or that it's unsustainable to try?
It's unsustainable.
Okay. Yeah, no, I definitely agree.
We should plan for the worst, but work towards the best.
I agree with that. Sure. Yeah.
That's quite nice.
I had so many questions.
I'm sorry, Hussein. I don't mean to. I'll leave the topic and welcome Bitter to the panel. I know we're
no, it's fine.
But, yeah. So Bitter, welcome to the panel. Yeah. This is the second debate in a row for Hussein and myself. So keep that in mind, people. Go easy on us. We've had a long day.
Yeah.
Bitter, I hope you're doing well. Thank you for joining us. Any of your thoughts on the debate or on any of the stuff we've been discussing currently?
Yeah. Hi. How are you? First of all, yeah. I've seen the debate. You did a tremendous good job in the debate, Mark. I would like to.
I thought it was a great conversation. I thought it was really interesting.
It was, yeah. The other thing, I was kind of disappointed from Hussein when I just simply asked about the history, why Muhammad he become in a power and then he starts, killing the Jew tribes and attacking them, and he called me that I'm Islamophobe instead of giving a proper answer.
I think I mistaken you for like the another person who was on with Dr. J and me in like a prior thing. So yeah, apologies about that. So
no, that's okay. So if you look at the history, how brutally Muhammad he killed innocent people, especially the children who has a pubic hair, and then he just ordered to kill them. And the same day and the same night, do you think this is humanity that raping the women on the same day who saw their husbands killed, who saw their brothers being killed by Muhammad forces at the same day and the same night? They are going to be, meeting in their beds, the murderer beds. Do you think this is a human being type things, or is this a barbarian?
These are comments.
I have an engagement for this.
I'm drained.
So one thing we have to consider is, where are we getting this narrative from? Do we know that this is factually the Islamic narrative, or is this one of the aspects within the Islamic narrative? Joshua Little kind of engages this within his dissertation. A lot of this stuff comes from hadith. So the thing is, there's like 30,000 hadith. So we have to be very careful when we're going through these spaces. What you're talking about, like the Banu Qurayza, the Banu Nadir, it's complex. It's complex. The history is not ironed in stone. So this is one historical narrative that exists within the historical narratives. I think it's kind of problematic if we just say that is the narrative, because not all Muslims agree with that narrative. That's why there's actually a complexity between the Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah and the Shi'at wal Ali. They're not consistent on the history. There is a difference in historical narrative. The thing is, what is agreed upon is that for most Muslims, that the Prophet is a bastion of character. So this is a problem. If this is true, this would be a problem, because this would not be consistent with the standard that how the people view the Prophet. Muslims view.
Okay, just quickly, I'm going to welcome David to readership. Thank you so much for becoming a YouTube member. And I don't know what that picture is, but you get a Bigfoot Jesus.
That's from Attack on Titan.
No, it's not it's
that does
Attack
look
on
a bit
Titan.
Bigfootish. I'm sorry?
It's Attack on Titan. It's a good anime.
Yeah.
Okay. Attack on Titan. Yeah, I've seen the first season. A very disturbing one.
The live action's intense. They did a live action movie. If you haven't seen it, oh boy.
Okay. Interesting. But I want to welcome Robin as well. Hey, Robin, welcome. I hope you're feeling well. And how are you doing?
Hello, I'm doing good. You did well, Mark. Thank you for always standing up for rights. And Hussein, I just want you to know how hard it is for women to listen to your ideal of what society would be like, because I mean, I'm not sure how most of the men in the chat and stuff don't agree too, but the women, I can't imagine why in the world women would want to live under these rules, and it just make no sense why we should go backwards to a place of living in that condition when we have gotten this far ahead. I mean, I'm sure you're a nice guy, but the society that you propose is, I would rather be dead than live there. So I just don't even know why in the world anybody would want to implement. I mean, I think, the religion should have nothing to do with government, period. Every country that is safer, has less crime, just less mental health problems, they're all secular. And these countries are not humanist, because we don't hardly have any humanist nations anyway. I don't even know if we have an actual secular humanist nation, but the Nordic countries are at least closer to it than probably anywhere. And women have rights. They deserve rights. They deserve rights. Men don't have right to tell us what to do, or that we have to breed kids and all that kind of stuff. I'm a human being. I was born the same as you, and no God has authority over me. Nothing. So
Robin, Islam doesn't say you have to have kids. There's plenty of Muslim women who don't have kids.
I'm not even picking on Islam. I mean, I know I would not want to go live with a thing.
But you're saying the world I'm proposing, but the world I'm proposing, in the Islamic countries right now, women do work. Women have the option to have kids.
Okay, they have to wear hijabs. Do they not wear hijabs? Or are they allowed to go to school or drive?
Yes, they go to school. Only Afghanistan is the only nation, and that's debatable because Iran women are like highly educated. You can go look into it.
Well, really? They still also get killed.
Yeah, but they're just required to wear hijab.
Okay. But there was that woman killed in custody for not wearing her hijab. Killed in custody.
I've watched the Iranian protests last year. They throw people off buildings and everything. I mean, I don't have anything against people being religious, and I'm not trying to be Islamophobic. But
I get what you're saying.
But it's there's no freedom of thought, and women have no rights there. I mean, I know better than that. You cannot convince me of that. I'm sure, if Isa was in charge of an Islamic nation, then maybe it would be all right to live there. But under regular
Robin, I think women do have rights, but you are correct that there's an inequality there, right? So it's not like women don't have. Well,
they have the right to divorce. They have the right to meher. They have a right to marriage. They have a right to, their will. They have a right to money
on paper.
Their brothers, sisters. Yeah, no, not on paper. On paper and practice. You guys are living in I'm sorry.
The United States left Afghanistan and then they stopped allowing women to attend university. These are not bastions of fucking women's rights.
That's absolutely true.
But is that
Per what the Taliban said, they said we won't let them go back to school until they remove quote unquote Western degeneracy from.
Yeah, but what does that mean? What does that mean? Western degeneracy.
I don't know what that means. You go ask the Taliban. I'm just telling you.
Showing their hair in public.
But
I know what it means.
But they said
that there is a level of inequality for women. Men aren't required to wear hijab in Muslim countries.
There is a hijab for men. There is a hijab for men.
Well, they're not required to wear face coverings.
Well, yeah, but yes, they don't have to.
Most of the women they don't
required to do that either.
I don't want to live in a Christian rural country either. I mean, I want to live in I don't even believe that gods exist, and so I believe that you have the right to believe in your God. I believe that everybody has a right to believe in their God, but I don't believe their God should have anything to do with my life. That's the way I feel. And
so, I guess the question would be. Right. So what's the question is
okay, why Robin, but what right is basically you're saying, they don't have the right to dress scandalous. Is that what you're saying? Because that's basically because when I go to an Islamic country and I go to where the majority of people are Muslim, so for example, where my dad's from, there's a women's only beach, there's a man's only beach, there's a women's only gym, there's a man only gym. They have their own spaces. And then they're protected from men because of that. And ironically, Many feminists
What
encourage that. And then also there's
Can
also
I-
within the Sharia, for example, like if a woman has to go talk to her male teacher, the door shouldn't be closed, because why would you ever close the door when like you have a young girl with you in the room? Like the point is you
Privacy?
should never do that, because you don't.
Because she deserves to, like, if they're having a private conversation about her grades and stuff, like, you want privacy for that. Like, if I was going to talk to a
You just
teacher
speak
about
lonely,
my
Mark.
grade,
Why do you need to
Hussein,
close the door with some girl you don't?
Hussein, if I was going to talk to my teacher about my grades and maybe, you know, I wasn't doing very well, I would like for, you know, even if that's a guy or a girl or whoever, I would like it to be private and not overheard by somebody out in the hall. That's ridiculous.
I drive a truck, Hussein. I have worked in a man's only job for 27 years. I drive a truck.
Okay.
I drive a milk truck. There are no other women milk haulers in 3 states around me. I have never been attacked by a man at work or in the gym or on the beach or anything. I don't know why this separation of, I mean, it's like an obsession with sex that is unhealthy when that's what you're focused on. I mean, to me, it just doesn't make any sense. I mean, I don't even worry about that.
Robin, I really wish you guys could like go to these cultures, because the irony, it's so ironic what's coming out of your guys' mouth. Like when it comes to like sex, sex obsession, the liberal West is obsessed with it. So they promote and push naked women on everything. Every commercial, beer commercial.
That's a bit of a
sex sells is the
it.
American ethos is
That's
sex
a wig.
sells. And you go to like a mosque. Oh, what am I talking about? Oh God, how's your date life? Blah blah blah. I go to with my Muslim friends. Oh, we go to the gym. Oh, like let's gym. Oh, good job. Blah blah blah. It's basically never talking about sex. Never. You're never talking about it.
Hussein, do you think if the women are wearing hijab, they are protected? Can I ask you?
Yeah, they've shown that.
Can you show me how many countries, the Muslim countries, are watching porn and they are like women are feeling insecure in Muslim world? Even though in Saudi Arabia the women cannot go alone, they need to go with the men. If they are going alone, the chances they can be raped by somebody. But in Europe, in America, we know we are living in a free society, but there is laws. If somebody breach the law, they will be punished, they will get punished. But in those countries, even though if you rape a girl, that's not a problem for you. So what are you talking about, man?
What is this assertion, dude? Like Islamic countries don't have laws? Like what are you guys talking?
No, so what are you
that.
presenting? It's completely wrong. It's not gonna work this way. Even though if you cover somebody, still they are watching porn, they are insecure, they are not secure, they are insecure, the women. So what are you talking about? That's not gonna work. That
I really wish I saved all these studies, but
I lived in Saudi. Let me tell you, I lived in Saudi Arabia. I've seen a lot of things. The khadama, they are taking the women in their home to work and they're raping them. And when they are pregnant, they are sending back their home to abort a child or clear it up and then come back. And they are
I
like,
never said Saudi Arabia is a bastion of Islamic value. I mean, they're the
well,
worst. I
it's
think they're the
the
worst
similar
Islamic
thing with Iran, similar thing with other countries. You were talking about the Afghanistan is the worst country. Nobody liked Taliban in Afghanistan. So I don't know what you are trying to present here.
Okay.
Well, like the Abrahamic religions, the Old Testament, it does not. It's not against rape. It's there's no women's rights in the Old Testament. So any religion that is based off of that right there, as long as they follow the laws of the Old Testament or the ideology of it, it's not going to have any women's rights. And there's nothing against rape. It's just all it is a violation of somebody else's property in the Old Testament. So I don't think any government should be based on any kind of Old Testament religion or any other religion. I mean, I don't understand why you just can't keep your religion in your house or your church and let other people have their life. And I don't think that Western society is highly immoral. I think we're very crowded and we have a lot of issues that really aren't about morals. It's about poverty.
Wait.
Hang on. Max has been really patient in the background and wants to say something. So I'm going to give it to Max.
Yes.
Okay. I have a question and a statement. The statement is, I go to clubs and I see pretty much half naked women and no one does anything to them. They're just there doing their thing, dancing. Men don't attack them. Men don't do anything. So if you educate people, that doesn't happen. And the other question I have is, what do Muslim women that wear hijab in public wear to the beach? I'm very curious about that.
That depends. I think if it's like a mixed beach, they typically have like the like people jokingly call them like bikinis or like hijab swimsuits.
Bikinis.
The bikinis. And then if it's like private places, then people can wear whatever. So like there's like again like in I don't want to reveal that. Where my parents are from, there's women only beaches, and the women do whatever they want there. So
wait, you said bikinis?
Burkinis, like a combination of it's called a portmanteau, which is a combination of words of a burqa and a bikini.
Yes.
Yeah, gotcha.
But decency laws have been in like secular societies too, so I don't understand the problem here, really.
Sure.
It's just a difference in what is decent in different societies, and if you're a moral relativist, you shouldn't care.
I think that it's not so much that I care that I think that women should have input on what is decent as well, though. That's the thing. Like, because the difference is that we have, like in Iran, where the women are protesting because they're being arrested for not doing what the men say that they should do, but they're not getting an input. They're not getting a voice saying, hey, this isn't immoral. We should be allowed to wear this. I personally think that in the West, it's unequal because guys can go shirtless, but women can't. I think it should be either guys can't go shirtless or women can, one of the two. I don't think it should be unequal like that. I think we should apply things equally to people. And this whole idea that women shouldn't have any input in what they want to wear is ridiculous. It should be something that they should absolutely have input over.
Trust me, whoever is living in the United States, they feel like it's a blessing instead of living in their own country. Why? There is a huge difference. I mean, dude, if you are living in America or in Europe, or if you are living in your own country, like Muslim country, you will find a big difference. That's the reason people are rushed to live in United States or in Canada or somewhere else, because they know there is a rights. You can have a good rights and you can, be living freely. But when you are living in certain countries, like Muslim countries, you wouldn't even able to speak up.
Well, again, it's not because of a factor of that they're Muslim. It's a factor because they're like autocracies and dictatorships, most of them being secular. So again, I don't know why you guys are keep labeling this like Assad is not the bastion of Islamic value. Neither is the Saudi government, who's directly working with Israel and like the US. Like, so like, what do you mean? Like, it's just, I think you guys are so far removed from like the current Middle East politics that you guys don't understand.
Well,
like
the problem, it's written in Quran, it's written in Sunnah. So if somebody comes up and speak up against a religion, they will mob lynch him. That's what happened in Pakistan and other countries, in Afghanistan, in Iran as well. See, you have no right to speak up for anything against religion.
Okay, so what you're doing now is you're saying, oh, look at this one bad actor, therefore this is a representation of all Islam, which is really stupid.
No, this is presented by Muhammad by itself.
So if one Marxist does one bad thing, all of communism, this is all a reflection of communism.
I think
If
it's
one
their
atheist kills
interpretation.
someone, this is a reflection of all atheism.
Because take Ismailis. Ismailis wouldn't take this point of view. The Aga Khan doesn't take this point of view. I can show you groups of Muslims who read the
Ismaili
tradition and see a very different point of view.
Isa, they don't believe Muhammad is the last prophet. So are you gonna admit that yes, then
No,
you
that's
don't believe in
Ahmadiyya.
Muhammad?
That's
No,
the
so
Ahmadiyya,
you
not-
don't have to bring them up then. When you bring them up, then you
No,
need
I
to
brought up the
accept
Ismailis.
them as a Muslim. You need to take them
I
that
brought
yeah,
up
they
Ismailis,
believe
not
that.
the Ahmadiyya. The Ismailis don't take that position. They see, because they take a Shia perspective, so they see the Aga Khan as sort of like a part of that Imam situation. They don't say that the Aga Khan is the prophet. But you're
No,
talking about
they take him as a prophet. So I'm not sure
But
where you're
I've
coming
never
from,
heard
but
of
I
any
know where they are
a
coming from.
question.
Another
A
prophet.
question is, how do we know who's right about morality, the Shiites or the Sunnis?
I mean, there's basically like they both have almost similar morals, so like I don't really see much of a
Right?
difference between Shia.
I did not kick anybody. I did not kick anybody. Anyone know what happened?
No, maybe they dropped.
Yeah.
Well, and
don't-
for me, to answer your question of inner truth, I don't take a no true Scotsman fallacy. First of all, the Ahmadiyya have an argument for that. They say it's what do they call it? Khatamul Nabiyin, not Nabiyin Khalisin. So that is an interpretation of the text. They said it's the seal of the prophets. The Prophet Muhammad is the seal of the prophets versus the final prophet. So you can make that argumentation. And to answer your question, Mark, I don't think we should take that position. It's a no true Scotsman fallacy. Like, I won't say ISIS aren't Muslims. They are Muslims. I don't agree with their version of Islam, but I can't say they're not Muslim. You know, I wouldn't take that position.
And that's why Isa is the best.
Yes, my favorite one. Yes.
Sorry, Hussein, I
about
don't
that.
know what happened there, mate. You just dropped out, and I'm not sure what happened. I certainly
I
didn't
don't
kick you
know.
or anything.
I don't know.
I just think that every I mean, and saying I'm not picking on Islam. I mean, I do think Islam is
No,
probably.
I wasn't taking it. You clarified that all Abraham.
I mean, I'm anti-Christian rule too. I mean, Christianity has been in the past has been just as horrible as I think, you know, I mean, on humanity as anybody. I mean, you know, we have just they murdered Muslims by, you know, the millions in certain, you know, the Crusades and things, and so I don't have anything specifically against it right now. Though I feel like that at the time when the Christians were doing that stuff back then, yes, they were brutal, but they were sort of with the world times at that time, and I feel like that we've moved past that, and I feel like that Islam is not keeping up with. And that's what's wrong with religions, because they don't want to change. And we are progressing as a species. We are progressing on what we know about the world and what we can do and how we can keep, you know, how we can make people's lives better. And it's
Okay,
like,
Robin, do you know that Islamically, like scholars have said, for example, like, okay, so the slavery thing is like a big thing, right? Okay. But Islamically, the scholars have said, since all nations are now in agreement and have signed these treaties, and Muslims, we must honor our treaties for under God. Therefore, like, we're recognizing all citizens. There's no such thing as slavery anymore. So, like,
I mean, that's right, but it doesn't have. It shouldn't have anything to do with God.
So,
I mean,
do you oppose? Do you oppose slavery then, Hussein? Do you oppose slavery then?
Yeah, in the current world order, yeah, like slavery is not needed. Yeah.
Okay. Then
What do you mean
do
by
you
the
think
current
this
world
is
order?
immoral?
Under modernity, slavery is not like a necessity.
Are you
So
a
then
moral
why-
relativist?
No, I'm just saying, like, even under, I'm using your argument.
But no, hold on. Because if you're saying that under the current world it isn't moral, but in some other situations it is moral, then that's moral relativity.
Isn't that just consequentialism? That's what you're saying, right?
Well,
Why is it moral
consequentialism
relativism? It's consequentialism.
Well, consequentialism is relative morality. It's sort of saying, hey, the morality of an action depends upon the outcomes that it has. So under one set of circumstances it is moral, under another set of circumstances it's not moral. That's
No.
moral relativity.
No, but I'm not a moral relativist. There's things that are always wrong and things that are always right. So giving
So
charity
is
always
slavery
good.
always right or always wrong?
No, I said that under that, for that specific thing, I said that Islam would get rid of slavery naturally. 2, because there's rules. So like after, say I have a slave, after I die, the slave is automatically freed. So there's no inheriting of slavery. So again, like I said in the debate, Islam puts restrictions and limitations on all these things that are social ills.
Are you saying Muhammad he abolished slavery? Is that you are saying?
Oh my gosh! By virtue of the practices, yes, sure.
Show me.
I will
I mean,
push
it's
back
where,
on
where
that.
Muhammad he abolished
Okay,
slavery.
let's let Max.
I need
talk for a
evidence.
I
just
will
told
push
you.
back on that because, as far as I know, the reason to free the slaves is to get a reward. So if you free the slaves, you get some kind of reward, like in heaven or something like that. So the motivation of freeing the slaves is not to free the slaves, it's to get the reward.
It's
And that
not to
changed.
abolish. It's not to abolish. It's all about
That-
reward.
Can I?
If Muhammad he abolish it, then it should be pretty clear that the slavery is being abolished and it's forbidden forever. But Muhammad he never abolished it. That's the difference.
Okay, so if you say we can't abolish it right now, but then we have to pave the way for abolishing it, so we have all these ways that you must free a slave, like is by virtue of this throughout history you would be abolishing it, yes?
So,
if your motivation is to free the slaves, yes. But if your motivation is to get some kind of reward in heaven, I don't buy that.
Max, can you have multiple motivations for things? Can I do something because it's right, but it also makes me feel good?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
But,
Thank you.
Yeah,
Okay.
but when you the only thing you expect to get is some kind of reward in the afterlife, then you're not really freeing the slaves for the sake of freeing the slaves.
No,
it's kind of a I don't
transactional.
Yeah,
I understand
it's
what you're saying. Yes,
transactional.
I understand what you're saying. So Max, so there's like a hadith where they specifically talk about intentionality, right? So for example, they say, "Oh, so and so was a good martyr," okay, and then they said, "Actually, he will be in hell." And they said, "Oh, what do you mean? He died for the cause of Allah?" And then he said, "No, he died because he wanted to be remembered.
He wanted glory.
Listen,
He wanted glory.
slavery.
So his intention is wrong.
Hussein,
So when you free a slave for a selfish intention.
Let's say him finish. Let's say Hussein.
Hussein,
sorry.
When you free
No.
a slave because
Let
you
him
love
finish.
God and you want to do the right thing, that's different than freeing a slave because of like some transactional way.
Hussein, listen. So the slavery never been abolished in Islam.
It is abolished now.
No. So it was Abraham Lincoln, not Muhammad. So my question is slavery sustained and it was till 1962 in Yemen, in Saudi Arabia, and a lot of Gulf countries. It's been practiced for years and years. It's been abolished by the Abraham Lincoln, and after that,
okay, congrats, bro. They're not again. Saudi Arabia isn't living up to my ideals of Islamic standards of good character and virtue. Why do you bow down to kiss a king when you're not supposed to bow down to anyone?
I would.
No, my point is that
listen, you
I'm
were
highlighting
shifting the
a fact that they
goalpost. You were
claim to
just
be
trying
something
to.
that they're not.
No, so the problem, you were shifting the goalpost. You were just trying to say Muhammad. He says if you pay this to this slavery and just release her, you'll get blessed or something like that. You were just talking about. It's not telling us that the slavery been abolished, and the slavery sustained till 1962 in Saudi Arabia and other Gulf countries. That's what I'm talking about. If the slavery been abolished, you have to show us the proof that God forbidden slavery and you no longer to have a slave girls. But nothing is in there, even though in any hadith or Quran.
Do you know about God's qadr, bit or truth?
God's qadr?
Yeah.
What is that?
It's that there's like an overarching fate. And so when Islam came to power and it's talking about some stuff that will happen, it's saying basically he's starting the process of removing slavery.
So the God cannot abolish right away, and it needs a process. Is
Oh
that
my
you're
God,
saying?
dude. The whole point.
I think
Do you know
this looks like
the point
hilarious
of
to
any
me, Arjun.
religion? Do you know the point of any religion, bitter truth? It's the point is the refinement of humanity. Like,
So the
it's like
human,
you're missing like this overarching narrative in like all of religion. It's the refinement of
I
humanity.
mean, it's
in the
such an
individual.
interpretation. I don't think
Not an interpretation.
it's works. Yeah,
The
this
whole
is
thing of
your
akhlaq,
interpretation.
the whole thing of virtues, the whole thing of inner jihad, all of this, like every religion talks about this. Like, what are you talking about?
Wow.
You're just like, yeah, religion doesn't say it, guys.
Well, if Muhammad he abolished the slavery,
It's a totally new
you
concept
wouldn't
idea.
be making a lot of excuses, and you would be showing us even though the words or the hadiths, but unfortunately you don't have anything like that. That's why you are just doing interpretation. What you
It's
are
not
doing,
interpretation.
it's not gonna
Again,
help. It's all
there was
your
social ills
interpretation.
at
I'm
the
sorry.
There's social ills at the time, and Muhammad, peace be upon him, put restrictions, and you're just completely ignoring that. So if it says, oh, the best of you are people who never hit your wives, then the goal and aim is that you never hit your wife. But he says, if you are going to do it, here's this restriction. So, and then you're like, oh wow, guys. I mean,
Even the Umar time, your Khalifa Umar, he never abolished the slavery, and the women, they were not allowed to cover their body. They can only cover their the bottom of their belly, but they are not allowed to cover their chest. And they were selling the slave girls, and they were having a multiple sexual partners. Why the God never abolished it?
Do you have a girlfriend, bitter
It's
truth?
supposed to.
Do you have a girlfriend?
I'm married.
Relevant.
Okay, wait. Have you ever had a girlfriend? Did you ever have a
relevant.
girlfriend? Did you ever have a girlfriend?
I mean, what is this question?
I want to see if you know what the definition of a concubine is. By the way,
I want to know what's the regulations on hitting a woman.
I told you it's with a toothbrush. Basically, it's like
with a toothbrush.
Yeah, it's like I'm mad at you here.
No,
really?
There's David would address this. The scripture, it is hadith, but they talk about a woman being like beaten till she's like purple and green. Like
no, that's another hadith
many times, really hard with that little toothbrush to be in that state. Like it's just such bullshit, man.
All right, Tyler, you're literally a fucking moron.
No,
so you're listening to David Wood, a fucking Islamophobe. Who literally lied.
That's not a thing.
Holy moly.
Wow.
All right. Good job, Mark. That was funny.
Awesome. By right. Thank
you, Mark.
Yeah, let's bring down the tempers. Come
okay.
on.
David is taking a hadith. David is taking a hadith out of context. The whole point of the hadith in context is that the woman lied and she didn't actually get beat. That's the whole point. So he literally she's saying, Aisha says, oh, I've never seen someone hurt as much as her. Okay. And the whole point is that she lied and she wasn't actually beat. Also, the other hadith does talk about you not being able to leave bruises and marks and anything like that. So basically the implication is that you can't beat them. You can only, the most you can do is go, oh.
Why not?
Oh, wow. The Quran says.
Why not just say don't hit them instead of what was a toothbrush? Like how long did Muhammad have toothbrushes?
It's a miswak. A miswak is like a stick that you chew on. It's using the word toothbrush.
I think one of the things that we're sort of touching on is you don't have to, like this symbolic beating. It's kind of like you don't have to hurt somebody in order to enforce violence upon them. You can threaten to beat them. If you remember Dark Knight, right? The menace that one guy had by putting his hand on another's neck kind of thing. And so this symbolic thing, it's just unhealthy in a relationship to have that power dynamic where one person says, hey, I have power and authority to lay my physical presence upon you, but you don't have the same power over me.
Yeah,
that's my opinion.
Me with a toothbrush, I'll probably pick up like a shop brush.
No, it's like a little tiny stick. You can look into it, but
I mean,
anyways.
it's
Sorry, Tyler, but my whole point is that if you look into it, he ignored context. So
I mean, nobody has a right to hit women or men. I mean, I don't have a right to hit men either. You know, I'm not a woman who beats on men either.
Only women can be beaten by men, but women are not allowed to hit a man. See?
How is that true? If men get hit men get lashed too. Like, how is
we
that
don't have
true?
a right to hit each other.
I don't think that's right either.
That's a violation of people's bodily autonomy. I mean,
okay,
if I
prison sentences are a violation of bodily autonomy, right?
Okay, that's for breaking the social contract of the
okay,
society.
So the same thing. You're breaking the social contract inside the Islamic State. Like, what are you guys talking about?
Right.
Do you hear yourself?
Hold on. The starting point is that men and women in an Islamic marriage start from a position of inequality. So when we're talking about the prison system, we are all under the same rules.
So you know what's funny, Max? You can find like Muslim women who actually say that the Islamic system favors women. But
and they would be wrong. Yes, I've heard women say that on the MDD Discord.
Because like their money is their money, my money is their money. They get to keep all the money. They have inherited property rights. They have basically like the only really duty they only have certain duties.
Disagree on that.
Have more duties.
I disagree on that. The women are inferior in Islam. That's true.
Would you say a majority of women say that? Hussein, would you say a majority of Islamic women believe that being Islamic is better for them? Would you say the majority?
I think most Muslim women are happy to say that they're Muslim. Yeah,
over 50% of them. You think?
I think that's probably true. Yeah, probably sure. I mean, Robin, I would love that you guys talk to like me. I think there should be more women on these to dispel these stereotypes. To be honest, so it would be nice.
I wish you would come to Uruguay, meet a couple of my friends.
Huh?
I wish you would come to Uruguay, meet a couple of my girlfriends.
Do you think most of the women you know in America would be happy to live like that? Like most of the girls that I'm assuming that you know girls that you work with,
yes,
socialize with, yes. and would they be comfortable living under this kind of restrictions that Islam would impose on them?
Like, so when you guys say like restrictions, you mean like the not like having a male chaperone? Because like that stuff's kind of like sure. Just like is
not being able to wear exactly what they want, like having to wear a hijab, things like that. Would they like, have you talked to them about it before? Have you said, hey, I think
most women growing up here, of course, they're going to be in a way culturally most people, okay, just follow whatever the society dictates or like conjecture of the times. So most people
know any lot different.
Huh?
They don't know any different.
Yeah, so in Western society, women will currently, right, like Gen Z, they have a big problem where they're sleeping around and they think there's nothing wrong with it, and then they have a bunch of trauma from it, and then they're desensitized to it, and then they're literally ruining it themselves in a way, and then they think it's totally fine because that's what they've been told. Same thing with like OnlyFans and all these other things, and they have issues with it. And you could argue, sure, there's probably issues within Islamic societies as well, where men are abusing.
It's almost like you're saying they're fine with it if they're indoctrinated into it.
Everyone's indoctrinated into everything, Mark.
I have a Gen Z daughter.
I'm not sure
she's
that's
not
true.
Sleeping around with everybody. I mean, she's 18 years old. She's a senior in high school. I don't know where. Why you?
Do you have a girlfriend, Hussein?
No.
Have you had any relationship, Hussein?
Yes.
This is a bit irrelevant, to be honest.
It is, but I think it's fair considering the question came the other way. How long is that relationship?
I would rather not go into details about my personal life.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, Mark.
No worries.
I mean, you're
real quick,
saying
if I could, Robin, I do want to get
I'm
into a
feeling
detail
sassy
of
all
my
of a sudden.
personal life, and it's that I'm going to bed,
Oh,
and you
Okay.
guys can't come with me. So
good night,
I-
Justin.
damn it.
No, invite
Okay.
Justin. Come on. I thought we bonded.
Well, you totally
So-
did, and I also want to thank you so much for coming over here and participating in After Show, and the debate as well was fantastic. Like, it was really, really nice. I enjoyed that. I look forward to moderating you again over there. But everybody, thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
Virtual
Really
applause
appreciate
for
it.
Justin.
Yeah,
Virtual
cool.
applause
Moderator.
for Justin.
Nighty night, Justin.
Having a good night, man.
I
Peace,
call
brother.
small spoon.
I want to address that point. I want to address the point about relationships. I think it's really important to have a healthy, consensual relationship, and I do agree to a degree with Hussein that some of our media is really toxic in teaching us about relationships in America, particularly coming of age movies. I don't think that's a really healthy way that we should consider it. That doesn't mean everybody follows it, but I do think that kind of media is not healthy to see, where they're like, yeah, you've got to lose your virginity before high school. I'm like, you don't need that. You should be able to have a healthy relationship where you're with someone that you really care about and that you want to have a committed relationship with. And I think that's important. Promoting commitment, promoting dedication. And I think this is what Hussein is saying. I think that it's not exactly America, but it is the media. We have some very toxic media. The music industry, there's some really bad messaging there. That's like, hey,
I agree.
And I like music. Like we talked before, that Australian band, what was it called? The Burning Beds, Midnight. I think that's what they're called.
Midnight Oil.
Midnight Oil. I'm a big fan of Midnight Oil because they're talking about how to care about the indigenous people. That's music that I think is important. I think this music that just tells you to go sleep around is very terrible. It's bad messaging. I don't know if we call it the West messaging, but it is bad messaging that we're getting.
Come on, that's the West, dude. Go consume Asian media, Arab media. They're not talking about that. China's stuff is not promoting.
It is the West. You know why it's in the West? Because we live under toxic masculinity.
Yeah, that's true.
Wait, come on, no, it's not. It's unlimited freedom.
Yes, it is. It's toxic masculinity. It delegates women down to sluts and I mean, and that's what it does. And it
men to go and have sexual relations with women. It's actually really bad where it says we as men need to go and have sexual relations with all these women without having commitment. It's very bad stuff. And it's like, and then I was talking because I was a special ed teacher. So I had a students and they were listening to hip hop music, and they had this album cover where there's this one man with all these pregnant women. And it's indicating that this man impregnated all these women. And I talked to the female students. I'm like, what do you think about this as a woman? They're like, yeah, I love the music. And I'm like, but what do you think about this message? Do you want to be in this space, or do you want to have a committed relationship with one guy, And this guy is not just going sing a billion women. So this problem exists everywhere. This idea where people are not committed, and we need commitment, I think.
Yes.
I would like to build on Issa's point, because I do find it to be a bit counterproductive that there's this concept in society that a person's worth is determined by their ability to procure sex. And one of the things that perpetuates that nonsense is this idea of an incel, that a person can be involuntarily celibate as if they're somehow entitled to intercourse. And if you look at the origins of that word, I believe it was first used by somebody who had just finished shooting up their school because they thought that everybody was a bunch of Chads and Stacys and that they were entitled to have a prom date, even though they made no efforts over the course of their high school career to make friends and to network and things of that nature. I think that this idea that a person is considered successful if they have a mate in some way, shape, or form is an absurdity. And especially during those years, which are so integral to self-discovery, I think people need to focus more on discovering who they are and finding their true selves before they share that with other people. And I know that there's a very good argument to be made that human interaction at that level is how one does that. But I think that there's far too much pressure on someone's ability to have sex. I've had so much more to say, but I really got to go to bed. I can barely keep my eyes open. It's a stimulating
no worries,
but it's late where I am. So respect. You're
Take
all
care, Tyler.
wonderful.
Bye,
Thanks.
Tyler.
It was
Tyler,
great
really
debate.
appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. This is my first time on your panel, Mark. I hope it's not my last. I have so much more I would like to say to you, and hopefully we could table that for another day. So
Yeah,
no
namaste to
swearing.
everybody.
No swearing at me, all right? Like, just keep it
Stay
clean,
safe.
all right?
No, I don't. I'm not.
I'm so joking. I'm so joking,
Oh,
Tyler.
okay.
It's all
All
good.
right.
It's all good.
There was one
Mark,
thing you
Take
mentioned,
care, mate.
Hussein, that I kind of wanted to revisit a little. You kind
Sure.
of said like about women like ruining themselves by having sex.
Yeah,
I
but
think
men
that's
can ruin themselves too. Just to
people
clarify.
don't get ruined by having sex. Actually, it's the opposite. I would say you get the more practice you get, the better you are.
Yay, Max.
Well, Max knows he's very practiced.
Max, you mean
Look, I kind of agree.
Max?
with
When I'm
Lisa
talking
that we
about that, I'm talking about hookup culture specifically.
Well, yeah, and I do think that some of those actions are destructive. I do think, though, that it can be something that doesn't necessarily have to be destructive. And I do agree with Isa partially that good relationships and healthy relationships and teaching young people that having intimate relationships and sex always means something and always isn't just something to be lightly done. I get that. But at the same time, we have to also teach them sex education and things like that to be able to, if they do want to partake in that and sort of have a healthy relationship with sex instead of a lot of religion. And I'm not leveraging this against you particularly, Hussein. I'm not sure what your view on it is, but they have this really repressive, don't talk about it, don't look at it, don't even think about it. And it leads to bad outcomes.
So I gotta go to sleep, but the irony,
right,
Mark.
No worries.
The irony, Mark, is that Islamically, you have a duty to actually like fulfill your wife sexually. So just so you know, like that's a duty as a man.
Yeah, but the counterpart of that is that you have implicit consent. You think you have implicit consent, so that kind of implies that you can force your wife to have sex when she doesn't want to, and that's disgusting.
I mean, I obviously would disagree, but I gotta go to sleep, guys. It's like really late, so.
I want to engage a point that you said, Max.
Like, hey, guys.
Good night.
Hey, Hussein. Take care, mate.
I want to engage a point that you said, Max, about having more experience. I understand that point, but I think it just, we don't need to be so fixated on sex. If that's something that happens in life, okay, but I don't think it really matters. Some people are ace. I think we have to understand that there's a fluidity. And I think that our culture gets really, and that's the thing I agree with Tyler, we get so obsessed with sex that what's your body count? That shouldn't matter. It should matter about that you have a committed relationship that's healthy. And, you know, sexual intimacy may be a part of that, right? That could be a part of this relationship, but it shouldn't be the primary thing. And I think of movies like American Pie, Porky's, they're just obsessed with sex. And I'm like, this is not healthy. We don't need to be obsessed with that. And I don't think that you're propagated.
I agree. I agree with you to a certain point.
To a certain point.
But when you live with someone and you're going to be spending the rest of your life with that person, ideally, it's good that the sexual connection is there and that it's a big part of living in a couple with someone. If you can't have a marriage if you don't have a strong sexual connection that fulfills you both. I do agree with you that over-sexualizing everything, it's not the best. But it is a very important part of couple life.
Not for everyone, though. Some people are
asexual.
It doesn't have the physical intimacy. I think that's one aspect. I just think my point is only one fold. So I don't know if there's really a disagreement. I only have one point. My point is it shouldn't be everything. That's it.
We can agree on that. Yes, with certain caveats, but we can agree.
My position didn't say that it shouldn't be a part of things. It just shouldn't be the fixation that like all these coming to age movies are so fixated on. And like I watch these movies, and it's like your worth is based on your body count, and I think that's just insanity, and it's bad, and it's patriarchal. So
yes, it's evangelical. Christianity here in America, especially, I can't speak for other countries, is very sexually like just it's they don't want to teach sex education. They don't want kids reading about it in school. They don't want this. They don't want that. But then they turn around and they're obsessed with it. It's an obsession, and it causes that kind of stuff. It comes out. Their sexuality comes out in weird ways. Is the way I feel about it.
You're right.
And just like the churches, all these churches that have, all these children. I mean, they're so repressive about sex that it causes perverted ways for it to come out, and it's screwed up girls and boys both in this country. You know what I mean? I mean, it's not just the women; it's the men too.
Mark made a really good point that the outcomes of not teaching sexual education and not teaching people how to have sexy,
well, not just that, relationships as well, because I do agree with Issa.
All of that, avoiding all of that leads to worse outcomes. The highest rates of teen pregnancies are with fundamentalist people, at least in the US, the last time I looked.
I don't
and STDs and there's a lot there.
We lead the United States in teenage pregnancies. My state does. That's our bragging. Our bragging point.
Sarah Palin, her daughter was pregnant. They were promoting all of that, abstinence now, and her daughter was pregnant. And I'm just like,
it doesn't work.
No, I agree. I'm in agreement. I do think we should have sexual education. I think we should know about this stuff. We can't pretend it's not there. We just need a balance. Yeah. We can't take this perspective where it's extreme, where all your validation comes from that, and there's this coercion that you need to have it, and then you can't have the extreme opposite that shames people who do have it. Both of these extremes are unhealthy. You need to take a middle way.
Exactly. And then you get these people like Lauren Boebert, that she was in public with some guy at a show, and he was touching her breast, and she was touching his thing. Like, what?
That was ridiculous. It's such hypocrisy.
Her son got charged with 5 felonies last week.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's insane.
Lauren Boebert, the one that got the girl pregnant, like he was like 17 and he got the girl pregnant. Like about a year ago, the baby's been born already. But last week he went on some kind of spree, stole a car and all kinds of stuff, and he got 5 felonies. So, yeah, maybe we won't have to look at her anymore after the next election. She has to, she's running in the next election, and surely to goodness, nobody's going to elect her again.
Look, she's terrible. I mean, if that's sort of Western values, I think it's a sad day for Western values.
And during the State of the Union the other night, they caught her on screen picking her nose too. That's pretty funny.
Well, hypocrisy. I agree. It's complete hypocrisy, and you see, particularly from those folks, they're going to tell you all about the religion and stuff, and they don't care about their own positions. Like it's complete hypocrisy, and it's sickening, and it's disgusting, and it's grotesque. And then you see that they want to remove the Roe versus Wade. They're like, we're trying to remove this thing because this, they're saying it's against God, even though it's not in the New Testament. They've made up their own religious laws too, because basically it's funny. If you read the New Testament, which I have, Jesus, the only position he really has is anti-hypocrisy. He doesn't talk about abortion. He doesn't talk about any of these rules that a lot of Christians have.
And he definitely supports the Second Amendment. Second Amendment.
You think that's what Jesus is into? Jesus heals the guy's ear in the Garden of Gethsemane, Malchus's ear. I'm like, it's so ridiculous. They've created their own rules, and like, for example, this is the funniest irony. It's going back to Jewish law. Jews don't care about abortion. You know that, right? This is not a concern for Jews. Which is weird because all of these people who wrote these books are Jews. So the people who wrote the Tanakh are Jews. The people who wrote the New Testament are Jews. They were Jewish believers in Christ. That's still Jews, though. Jewish believers.
Yeah, but the Christians follow the New Testament where it says that I knew you in the womb before you were born.
Yeah, this is metaphorical spirituality. The problem is the New Testament's a
breath thing to them, and they don't listen.
It's not literal. It's metaphorical spirituality, and I think that's an important thing. People are like taking it. They're like, "This is the law." Like they said, Jesus brought a sword, and I'm like, "Well, if there's a precedent for that, see, I'm into law. So if that precedent is there, in the Garden of Gethsemane, he would have told Simon Peter to kill all those people. He didn't, so that argument is moot. It has to be a spiritual argument that he's making. But the thing is, they're like, oh, they said bring a sword. And I'm like, yeah, but there's no precedent for that. So you're just making this stuff up. But it's like, it's really weird. Like a lot of these things like that they're pushing, the family values, that's not the New Testament. There is no family values. This is not a position. Paul of Tarsus, who's the protagonist of the after Jesus, he's the hero of the New Testament, is a celibate. So I'm like, what are we talking about here? Who's teaching us about how to have a family? It's not Jesus. It's not Paul. Who is it? I guess it's America.
They will protest. They will protest. Books being read that has about queers, kids, or trans kids in it. But they didn't protest the church when it was when all the children were being assaulted. I mean, you don't see them standing out in front of every Catholic church with signs every day. I mean, it's just like. Right. They pick and choose. They're cherry pickers, and I just live right in the middle of it. I mean, I live in Kentucky. I'm surrounded by, I'm in the buckle of the belt, the Bible Belt. And they look at me like I'm on Mars most of the time because I got my signs out there for women's rights and stuff. And I don't like killing, I don't like the idea of people having to get abortions. I mean, I think that we should teach sex ed and make sure that everybody has birth control. And then we should allow people to have the abortions that they need for medical reasons. And we should teach girls to not get pregnant. I mean, and the Netherlands has the lowest abortion rate in the world. And somehow they've managed to do it without having to ban abortion.
Free access to birth control is
necessary. In Uruguay, as part of getting an abortion, you get psychological support. You get before and after the abortion, you get psychological support, and also we have made contraception way more accessible. So the law that allowed abortions was actually like a comprehensive law. And what ended up happening after things kind of equalized, abortions went down. The amount of abortions went down.
They will. I mean, they will. And ours has been dropping steadily every year, since like 1973. They've been dropping. It's just, they do everything. They don't ever think of the consequences, the long-term consequences. Everything is like a reactionary motion. They react to something and they implement stuff and they don't even think like one step past that. What is the consequences of what we are doing here? And it just drives me crazy because, you can sit and tell them all day, all the consequences, the crime rate is going to go up because they banned abortion, and all this stuff. And they don't care. It's like they just think that they've done something so wonderful. And it's just,
look at Alabama. Alabama has declared embryos to be people, and so now the IVF clinics have had to shut down because they're worried about being charged with murder because they've got embryos that they usually dispose of, and now they're worried about. Right. And when they talk to the politicians and say, hey, couples can't get IVF and they want to have families, he doesn't even understand the problem that it's not, it's preventing couples who can't have children from having children, this law that he's passed, and he doesn't even understand what IVF does.
Well, but see, Mark, it's the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church has been against IVF since it first started.
Yeah.
They see, I mean, they've been against they don't even like birth control. They want to get rid of that. I mean, they really are pushing to try to get rid of birth. That's what I've been trying to get the women in my life to understand. Some of them are against abortion, and I can understand that stand in a way. I can. But when you start telling women they can't have birth control and stuff, and that's what I told them. I said they're not wanting to just get rid of abortion. They want to get rid of birth control. They want to get rid of IVF. They want to get rid of everything that has anything to do with humans populating, that they think that's all up to God. Nobody should interfere with that. You either, if you get pregnant, you are meant to get pregnant and you are supposed to get married. And if you don't have babies, then you were meant not to have babies. That was God's will. That's the way they look at it. And so they've been against that just as much as abortion since the day it went in.
Libel, I want to welcome you to the panel.
I was going
do you have any thoughts? I'm going to be wrapping up pretty soon. Like I was going to go for like 1.5, 2 hours, but it's 2.5. So, but that's okay. I've really enjoyed having all of you here. But what I might do is give Libel a chance to say something, or start a conversation on something, and then go maybe round the room after a bit and sort of wrap up, if that's okay.
Right. Okay. Can you hear me?
I can, yeah.
Right, fantastic. I was going to congratulate you first of all, Mark. I did pray for you. I did pray for strength for you because I thought you might need it. Because
what?
I prayed for strength for you because I had the feeling you might need it. This Hussein guy. Oh my goodness, honestly, he had my pulse rate was going up. The things he came out with. Are you not sure that he is not a radical? Because that's exactly how he came across, as if he's been indoctrinated.
I think he might be a radical. He does have some views that I would see as very sort of
vile
on the radical side. Yeah, they certainly, I would vehemently disagree with them. But I mean, people have held different views, especially when you're younger and you grow up and you learn a lot and stuff. So I get what you're saying, and I vehemently disagree with his ideas. As I said, I'm representing secular humanism. I think that actually most Islamic people I know would vehemently disagree with some of his ideas as well. So I don't think that it's a problem with Islam necessarily. But again, I will contend that secular humanism is a better ethical system than
But as you know, I live in Europe, right? In the United Kingdom since 1995.
Scotland or North England from that accent?
Northeast. But I'm originally from Germany.
Germany. You have a German accent. Guten Tag, sprechen Sie Deutsch? I went to Germany. You have that German accent.
Ja, natürlich spreche ich Deutsch. Was soll diese Frage? But the thing is, what is happening over here since about 2015 is a massive migration, mainly Islamic, and it's from countries where this dream world of this Hussein is actually established. And that led to that nowadays young German, mainly young German women, German girls, the English girls, it doesn't matter where, France, it is the same. They've got to be very careful where they go. A lot of them can't go outside anymore. The rape rate is absolutely skyrocketed because a lot of these young women and girls don't want these mainly young men, not for boyfriends. And they just don't seem to understand that. And it is becoming increasingly, you notice that our governments just turn around and say things like, but it's religious freedom, is this, that, and the other. And to my shock and horror, after these attacks in Israel, they came out onto the streets of Europe. And there was a police in Berlin where they've said, why didn't you arrest them? Because they were showing National Socialist flags and all that sort of thing. They said, well, we couldn't have done that because we were outnumbered. And it's absolutely terrifying us at the moment, the way this thing is going. It really is scary because we can feel this is gradually taking over, and we've got to give them more and more and more way just to maintain the public peace.
You mean the young Islamic people kind of thing?
Yeah. But not just the young Islamic ones, the young ones that come over here. It's the ones that have been integrated here in the third generation, all of a sudden find, oh yeah, there was this religion and we need to follow this.
Okay.
You see, you're talking the critical mass of 5%. And it's becoming from the way that people are feeling, it's out of control basically at the moment.
And it's also you have
I hear you. Yeah, I do hear you, and I think I mean, I don't know enough about it to know the causes and the root, sort of cause of this happening, and it could be a lack of guidance by older and sort of wiser people to sort of integrate them, and I honestly don't know. I could not say. Sorry, Issa, you had something to say.
I wanted
there.
to address that point. I do think
Right.
we have to understand that Islam is polylythic. This is my conversation that I had with Apostate Prophet. So unfortunately, we have certain movements that are very, I don't know what to say, fanatical. I think that's the word I could use.
Yeah.
Very fanatical, open to doing really bad things in society. I have to own it. I'm going to say it's a part of what's going on, and it's deeply problematic. It's not really based on spiritual reflection. Like, this is not the path of Rumi and Hafiz and Kabir, the great mystics of old, Omar Khayyam, Rabia, Basra. This is not from this teaching. This is from a hyper literalistic, I would say, fanatical position where people view them. So a lot of these people have come from troubled spaces. And what happened is it's kind of like a rebellion. Like, there's this feeling that's like, Europe did this imperialism to me. Now, I want to respond in this way. And it's wrong. It's unethical and it's wrong. And I'm just going to put it out there. It's wrong to do that. Assaulting people in relationships, in assaulting women is wrong. There's non-consensual relationships are wrong. And it is a problem. And the problem is that a lot of these people have not been trained how to, if we're using religion, I know some folks don't believe in religion here, but using religion as a method to help spiritually purify oneself and using it as a toolkit to help you be a better human being, but you're using it as a weapon to hurt other people. That's the problem. That's what I see with these spaces. And there is anti-Semitism. That's another big problem. I'm not going to deny that there is an anti-Semitism. Like, that 10/7 was a horrible attack. It was a horrible tragedy that occurred. And there were people who said this was good, and that's wrong.
Yeah,
and then they get upset about what happened.
What's happening in Palestine is a tragedy,
which I think is also wrong. I think all these innocent Palestinians are innocent. Innocent Israelis are innocent, and this should be the ethical position that I think most people should take. This is wrong, but it is weird that I heard some people say that 10/7 was okay, but the bombing of innocent Palestinians is that's wrong. And I'm like, no, they're either both wrong, or you could say they're both right. For me, they're both wrong. You can't just say one is wrong and one is right. They're both wrong. So.
One was
anyway. I'm gonna wrap it up. I'd like to go around the room, get everybody to give their sort of thoughts on everything. Thank you so much for joining me, everybody. I do apologize, LaBelle. You came in right at the end, so I do apologize, but I've got to wrap it up.
Before.
Oh, I do apologize. It kind of opened up. It was about 9. I think there was one spot, but yeah, you'd probably have to pick it. But thank you so much for coming in. Max, have you got well, actually, I'll leave you to last. You're the co-host. I'll leave you to last.
Right.
Robin, have you got any final thoughts, anything you'd like to wrap up with?
Yes, and I was going to tell LaBelle, I think that Hussein is probably not near as radical as he seems. Once I started talking to him, he seems a lot nicer than what some of his ideals are. So maybe he's kind of debating from that, pushing that angle, of making a strong, case. I don't know if that makes any sense. What I'm trying to say though is sometimes in these debates they kind of go to one extreme, sort of debate their side a little bit. But me and Miss Ahmad I have a channel now, so everybody go subscribe, please. I have 5 videos of where I've been on with other shows. Is all it's on there. I haven't made any original content yet.
I can get a link for you. Give me a sec.
And but me and Miss Ahmad are going to be doing a show starting Tuesday. It's called The Mod Files, and we're going to do videos, watch videos on like paranormal and aliens and stuff like that, and we're going to try to like dissect some of those. And so,
all right, well, I'll link Missing Mod as well. So if you guys you girls are teaming up, then I'm all for it. I think that's an awesome team. Absolutely.
Yeah, we haven't got I don't know if she's got the thumbnail done yet because she was working today doing some stuff. But but this should be up because it's supposed to Tuesday. We'll have to, like, 1 week it'll be Tuesday and the next week it'll be Wednesday, like that all time, because I work every other day. So, but it should, I hope it make it interesting. This first one's going to be about aliens, and so.
Okay, beautiful. Siddharth, do you have any final words, anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, actually, I mean, it's right on topic. So this whole Hussein episode kind of got me back to my days. So I'll just summarize it in this way. People who at first glance would appear quite innocuous, right? Like they're completely pleasant. You'd never think anything is wrong, right? But the moment you start probing some of their ideologies, it all kind of starts tumbling out. And I've noticed this a fair amount with things like homophobia and all of that sort of stuff, especially considering I am not living in some village, right? I'm in a metro city almost. So the moment you start probing it, it all starts tumbling out. And I had to, like, go on this long explaining session to this 20-year-old kid about, like, homosexuality being as natural as anything. Like, you can't start openly discriminating on people for such reasons. And it's just something you wouldn't think until you really come across a lot of their really closeted views. And Hussein, I would say, is very nice. Like, he was extremely pleasant. It sounds very radicalish, but I would say it's not so much. It's slightly tilted, like, that's it, like, so I wouldn't hold it too much against him or anything, even though I don't agree with any of his views. It's just it's obvious he's not a third party observer in this, right? He is effectively taking a defensive justificatory position on things that are plainly wrong, like anybody would say they are wrong, right? But it's can't help some things, like, it's just like science, like it progresses one funeral at a time, I guess.
Okay. Isa, do you have anything to add? Just some final words, final thoughts?
Wow.
It was a ride, I know. It was quite a ride. I got you.
There's a
Hey,
lot.
Mark, can I say something? I forgot to. That Issa's going to be with me on the Kentucky Atheists on the 24th too. So,
oh, cool. Okay, awesome.
By there too. Issa's going to be. I'm me and Joe and Issa. So I forgot about that. Cool. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you're totally.
That's all right.
Thanks for the plug. I think for me, there's a lot of issues here. So where I stand, my personal stance on a lot of things are, I care about human rights. That's a very important thing for me. I'm actually finishing up this whole program, one of my classes on thanatology, which is the study of death. And I'm looking into bioethics. And in bioethics, you have beneficence, non-malfeasance, justice, and autonomy, right? So this is what I think, and I wanted to echo the Maslow's hierarchy of needs too. I think this is really important, that we need to have human rights and human justices. And focusing, if people have faith or people don't have faith, it's important to make sure that these rights are considered and that people's rights are not violated. I think this is a really important thing to consider. And I think that is something that was a kind of overarching part of this conversation. How do we make sure not to violate human ethics? And I think that's the most important thing. Whatever language you use, that's what we need to focus on. So that's kind of where I rest in this entire conversation. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. That's fantastic. Yeah. And Max, do you have any last words? Anything you want to add?
Yeah, thank you for having me over here. It was a fun after show. And you can I can be back anytime you want. It's always fun to hang out with you, and it was a good conversation. That I enjoyed the debate, I enjoyed the after show, and let me do just a tiny bit of shameless self-promotion. You can find me on Matters Now. Oz has delegated the pre-shows and after shows to me, so you'll be seeing a lot more of me over there. And I'm doing the show that Isa and I are co-hosting, the Tell Me That Story show. And tomorrow we're having Dr. J, Oz, and Hussein talking about they're not having a debate. It's more of a conversation about what would be the best for society, atheism, Islam, or Christianity. It's part 2 of the video. And on Wednesday, we're talking about curiosities on the Norse myths. And again, Mark, thank you so much. It was an awesome night.
Oh, my pleasure. Absolutely my pleasure. And somebody sent in, oh, it's Maximiliano again. Thank you so much. Sent in a last minute 5 Singaporean again. Thank you. What a great stream. I haven't done any work today. Thank you anyway. I'm not sure if that's a good thing. I'll take it in the best possible way. Like, I'll take that as a compliment instead of a, how dare you interrupt me in my endeavors. Hey, look, well, that's what we're here for, I guess. But thank you so much, Maximiliano. I really appreciate it. I really do. And thank you for everyone for watching. All of my panelists, Isa, Max. Oh, yeah, sure. LaBelle, if you've got one more thing to add, sure. I really do got to wrap it up.
About me.
Well, you sort of came in when I was doing the wrap up, so I kind of, yeah. But if you do, just something quickly, sure.
But yeah, very quickly. It was a great debate. I like the after show. I absolutely loved it when Robin came in, because that gave Hussein a little bit, oh my goodness, now here's a strong woman. I thought that was fantastic. And I mean, I am Christian, but I'm not sort of dogmatic with any church kind of stuff. I'm a bit of a weird Christian, just like Isa is a bit of a weird Muslim. Right.
I'm not sure I'd agree, but yeah,
I'm 100% sure. See, for example, I'm not homophobic. I'm none of this kind, because I'm 100% sure that Jesus he loved all people, and he would do that, and he would not go with any church doctrine. So, but it was a great show as always, and I'm looking forward to Max's shows, the Norse mythology. Wow, I can't wait.
Thank you. Brilliant. It's going to be fun.
Yeah,
I love Norse mythology. I love Greek mythology too. If you're doing that one, I'll give you a nudge to do Greek as well.
I think we have a time difference, Mark. But if you're ever like wake in the middle of the night and you want to just hop on the Tell Me That Story show, you're more than invited.
I hope not, but sure. Why not?
You have a standing invitation.
Thank you. I really do appreciate it. Thank you. And I want to just leave off with the idea that secular humanism doesn't, like, we're not going to enforce anything on anybody. We're not going to say, hey, this is absolutely how you should act. Really, it's there to convey, if you do want human flourishing, secular humanism can provide a basis for living ethically without any gods or any kind of anything else apart from your empathy and an understanding of consequences and what you want out of life. So I really think that it will work with, you know, Isa, and it will work with Libel, and it'll work with any religion. And moreover, if you've got good ideas, secular humanists want to hear them. If it'll work, it works. It doesn't care where anything comes from. It doesn't have those prejudices. But as always, thank you so much for joining me. It's been a pleasure, and I'm kind of annoyed that I've got stuff to do, but that's life. Yeah, thanks for supporting me in the debate. I thought it was a great debate. I disagree with Hussein, but I still respect him. I look forward to talking with him again. Isa doesn't believe me. He absolutely doesn't believe me that I respect him, but never mind. That's okay. Thank you so much, everybody. Well, you know, I've been trained for that. So thank you so much. Don't forget to be kind to yourself, be kind to each other, and have a fantastic day or evening. And I forgot one of my banners, so I'll run it now. Look, I always forget something. It's terrible, but you know, I'll get to it one day. Someday I'll be a real boy. Thank you so much, everybody, and everybody that contributed with super chats and comments and coming on. It's been fantastic. Have a good one. See you.
Bye.